welcome to Miss Martin Muses and Pub Crawl. It is another night of Pub Crawl. More specifically, we are in night 3, 5 hours in. That means that we're at least 5 drinks in, if you're following the rules, because usually at a pub crawl you have at least 1 drink. It's about 11 o'clock at night, and our special guest is none other than Lady Balefire.
Hello, thank you for having me, man. I'm so hyped about this stream. I just when you said classical music, I'm like, let's go.
Yeah, let's do this. And anyone that's not a classical musician maybe doesn't understand, and I know they think we're really snobby, but it's life. it's our life.
Yeah. So I mean, gosh, like, where do you even start? Like, okay, so maybe before we get on to anything, like, how do you get into classical music? Like, it's an odd path.
Yeah, it is. Now, for me, it's some inspiration that I got when I was very young from Star Wars. I can put it back a little bit to Star Wars. I was 3 years old, and the music of Star Wars and Jaws, Close Encounters, like Close Encounters, that's one of those movies I went to see because there was a drive-in theater, and the
Yeah.
parents would just, like, make us put on our pajamas and sit in the back and let us go to sleep with our sleeping bags back in the day, and so I was exposed to instrumental music, and I was always into piano because I was kinda imitating my older sister, and I had a big propensity for it, and then it just went from there. Then I got into Beethoven, for some reason, Beethoven's Fifth, and some of those just really got me, and I would listen to it over and over again. We had records, and
Yeah.
that's just the way it happened.
Yeah, I think for me it was like I don't really remember what I was really thinking about this, and I was in band in elementary school, and I started off playing the drums, and that was really not my instrument, and then
Mhm.
I started taking piano lessons, and then at some point in time I switched to playing the French horn for some reason. Like, I don't even remember why, and that was really my instrument, and even though I played piano up until I was in high school, like, I just kinda stopped, like, later on because it was just nothing that I was really super good at or anything, and
Mhm.
hindsight, I wish I kind of hadn't done that because it's like you can still play and enjoy it and not be a complete perfectionist, but yeah, I did the, like, hardcore symphony orchestra stuff because, like, the French horn is just an orchestral
Mhm.
instrument, so
Yeah, when you said French horn, I was like, "Dude," because that is hard.
it is really, really, like, a hard instrument, like, and for those of you guys that don't know, the French horn is, like, the curly thing, and you usually, like, sit down when you're playing it, and you rest it against your, knee. It has a bunch of valves, and you play the valves with your left hand, and then, of all of the brass, instruments, I think it has, like, the smallest mouthpiece. Like, the trumpet is a little shallower than the French horn, but the French horn has a, like, thinner rim and a deeper, like, bowl part of it, and because of that, I think it makes the embouchure, which is, like, how you, hold your lips to make the notes, like, harder than, like, say, the trumpet or anything else.
Mhm. Oh, no, what she said. It was very intelligent. Yeah, it's crazy, and it's also very hard to play well. Well, actually, since you brought that up, I'm gonna have an image I'm getting here, but and while I do that, let's say hi to our chat. Look who it is. It's Corey Cochran, Adega
Hello.
Outlaw. Hello. William Richard, can't wait. Yay. Oh, look, ready to nerd out. Yeah, we're ready to be total geeks. Hope all is well, doing well. Thank you. Sax player. There we are.
That is really
Now,
cool.
sax players, which people who do not understand, they think that that is a brass instrument. It is not. It is a wind instrument. It is
Mhm.
a reed instrument.
Reed
So,
instruments.
um, which is kind of weird. I mean, a person could be forgiven for thinking so because it looks brassy. So, speaking of which, let me actually create this here for the slideshow. Here is the French horn. This is the monster that Lady Balefire plays. Part of me wonders if maybe your teacher got you into the French horn because it's so hard. And often if students show propensity towards something, usually when they're piano players, they're
Yeah,
like,
I think, like, I had
"You play
gone
the
through a
super hard
summer
one."
where I tried to play the flute too, and I didn't have a hard time with that. It's just somehow I just ended up playing this, and I think it was, like, they needed somebody to play the French horn because nobody was
Mhm,
doing it. I mean,
mhm,
we didn't have a huge band or anything, but yeah, this is actually it's a double horn, and so what makes it a double horn is, like, you have the 3 flat keys on the right side of the picture.
mhm,
Um, that is the single horn, like, if you were just playing that, that's your typical 3, and then there's a key for your thumb, and when you press that, it's like having a second instrument, and so, like, the horn is in F, the key of F, and the double thing is in B flat, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, so some of the fingering will change on the notes when you have the thumb pressed down, and what it does is it, like, allows, like, a little, like, greater range, a little on the high end, a little on the low end, because you have more, like, tubes to available for the sound.
mhm. Yeah, and then the actual horn part kind of comes almost behind you, which is a weird, like, the way it's held, and one of the
Yeah, like
iconic sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, yeah, because you have it on your knee, and then your right hand goes into the bell, and you can kind of modulate the sound with your hand. You can kind of mute it, you can, like, make it louder, and you're like, when you put your hand in it, you wanna just kind of, like, elongate the bell, so it kinda directs the sound out, so
Mhm. Yeah. People don't understand that when we say these things are hard, we really mean it, and to be able to master it and play music from it is incredibly
yeah, so what did you play?
my main instrument, it was a string bass. That's what I majored in
Oh, okay,
college.
okay. Yeah, I was
Yes,
gonna ask you, like, if it was, like, an upright, like
correct.
yeah.
And I ended up with it because I was a pianist from a very young age. I started at 4, and we finally found someone that would take kindergarten students. So I was
Oh,
very
wow.
adept at the piano, and I learned later when I moved back from Ireland to America, and I wanted to be in an orchestra because I was so obsessed with orchestral music by that point. The teacher was like,
Mhm.
"Hey, have you decided to play bass? Does that sound good? You can go into the top orchestra in 8th grade, middle school." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll work real hard on that." And I show up and I'm the only one, and it's like, "Oh." And then I've learned that's the
Okay.
story of a bassist's life is the fact that people don't choose bass. And
Yeah, it's definitely it's a big one.
it's big, but I'll tell you what, and I'll tell anyone that'll listen to me, if you wanna shoot straight to the top real fast, and if you can do it, play the bass,
Yeah.
because a lot of
You know
people
what
don't wanna do it for that
Oh,
very
yeah,
reason.
yeah, definitely, but you know what's really cool about that instrument is that you can, there's a lot of other genres of music that they would use the bass for, like, you
Mhm,
jazz, like, if you're able to, like, play, like, an electric bass, you could,
mhm,
do all sorts of things, so I envy you on that because French horn is really, like, it's a orchestral instrument, it's maybe a wind ensemble instrument, I mean, I did marching band too, so yeah.
yeah. Well, correct, I have been hired in to play with bands before. The one time I really was able to rock out with the Darth Vader's Imperial March, and they
Oh,
were like,
yeah.
"Hey, we need a bass for this piece," and I'm thinking, "Yes, yes, yes, and yes. I'm there." And so I was hired in to play just for that one song, and I'm like, "There is a God, God loves me," and it was just really cool. It was with the
Were you who were you playing it with?
it was a professional symphonic band in a certain place that I won't say. So, yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
because sometimes, you can do, like you said,
Yeah, gig work.
events, or they'll bring you in for a jazz piece. I've never truly taken an electric bass thing
Mhm.
unless it's really simple. I mean, I'm not very good at it, but you
Yeah.
can. That's the thing, it's very versatile because these instruments are friggin' hard. I can't emphasize it enough. So, and you play for hours and hours, and then when you get into an orchestra, you don't just get in an orchestra. For us, it's you play in a string orchestra, you play in a string quartet, you play in
Yes.
string trios, you play in a full symphony orchestra. And you do all of that, and I know that. Well, for you, you were in the orchestra, and you probably were also in the band. You were probably in marching band.
Yeah, I was in, like, the youth symphony orchestra, the adult orchestra, the symphonic winds,
Mhm.
and my high school band and the marching band, and those were, like, the regular ones, but then I also did a bunch of honor bands, so I was in the Tournament of Roses honor band, I did, the John Philip Sousa band, which was really fun.
Mm,
And honor band, and we
nice.
it's like it was funny, it was like we did the auditions, we got it you either got in or you didn't, and then we had a rehearsal in the morning and like, concert that night, and it was really fun, and, yeah, like, yeah, there's a lot of things, but I was thinking it's Christmas time, and I had some friends, from the Rose Parade band that, lived around me, and I knew them from orchestra too, and so we all decided to do a brass I think it was like quintet or quartet, depending on how many people we had, but we used to go up to the street where they had, like, really crazy Christmas lights, and we just stood on the corner and we would play. And
Mhm.
we would just put out, like, a hat, and we made a lot of money, and those were some good times, and then we also had, a couple of gigs with churches and stuff, and it was really fun.
Yes. That's another thing. I was just thinking Messiah, the amount of times I was called in for some church
Oh,
that wanted
yeah.
to do Messiah, or even midnight mass. Sometimes they'll hire big fancy
That's
musicians,
really cool.
weddings. One of the best things about doing weddings is often I would be invited to the rehearsal dinner too. That was part of the perks. So you always got the
Oh,
great food
nice.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like the fancy receptions to be
Ooh,
brought in.
yeah.
Yeah. And and when I say these, I didn't just do this as a professional musician after college. This is the kind of stuff that you would get in high school. I
Yeah,
remember being called in, and we would get paid.
that was
N
cool.
Yeah, now looking back, part of me is thinking, maybe they wanted the high school kids because they didn't have to pay us union fees, but you know what? It was still a shit ton of money. So
I know, who pays you for playing classical music? Like,
exactly. A and when you're talking about you just show up and then you play, there's we know the repertoire. There's like a whole repertoire that you just know, like Handel's Messiah. It's like for crying out loud. Of course, you know it. And so when you get together for the rehearsals, you're not sitting around, nitpicking, trying to like, oh, oh, your finger string's supposed to go here. No, you're just getting together with the ensemble to work together. And maybe the conductor has a few little quirks or things like you're like, hey, at
exactly.
this measure, I like to do this, I like to do that. And then boom, you go.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you when you played the Imperial March, were you playing the whole, like, John Williams, like, suite? Like,
I
Star it was like
believe.
a Star Wars suite, like, it was I don't know, it was something that we always played in the adult orchestra for, like, summer concerts.
Yeah, because it was a crowd pleaser. I
Yeah, we always did it, and it was like, it had Star Wars, it had, like, Jurassic Park and Indiana Jones, like, ugh,
Yeah. No, it wasn't a suite, though that sounds actually pretty badass.
it
This
was.
was just the plain Imperial March.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm gonna throw something out incredibly controversial, though. As much fun as John Williams is to play and how great his film music is, hated playing him. I don't like playing
Oh,
him. As a string player, I think there's a thing where string players, we like to play in certain keys. We like sharps, wids like flats. He
yeah.
freaking had like 5 flats in that, and a lot of his music tends to be so it's difficult. I mean, not saying I don't enjoy it. That's maybe the wrong word, but I'm just like,
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like there's certain composers or certain things that you do that are just like, okay, for my instrument, it is just not happening. Like, I don't know, like how many times, like in the Sousa band, or like playing that stuff, can you be like, da 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 da?
exactly. And it's hard. And it's incredibly technically difficult to do. But that doesn't take away from how awesome it is. But if someone were to generally say if you had to choose between, say, playing something by John Williams versus anyone else. It would
Yeah, I think what was, like, so fun about that stuff was it wasn't, like, hard or anything, but it
Mhm.
was, like, when you played it, it's, like, the excitement that people would get and just hearing it, and it's such expressive music, I think it's something that always gave me, like, chills, and sometimes I get tears in my eyes playing
Yeah.
Jurassic Park because the French horn part for that, like,
Oh.
the part when they come into the, park that da da
Oh,
da, da da
oh
da,
gosh,
da da
yes.
da da,
Mhm.
da 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 da,
Yeah.
da da da. Yeah.
Yeah, and oh, yeah, and so that's what I was saying is I might sound
Or
like I'm
that
an asshole. Yeah, because you do
it's so good.
and yeah,
But
and the crowd does go wild, especially for Darth Vader scene and stuff, but I'm that's what I'm saying, I'm such a dick, but it's like I hate playing it, but yeah, but you love it. Oh my gosh, when you said that,
wait,
about the French horn.
yeah, yeah, is there a song like that for, like, bass that you have or, like, a piece?
Oh, like a piece I'm not really for the, film scores, and this is maybe getting into the classical stuff, and look, we have a classical salon, we're gonna talk about that in a second. Um, unfortunately, it's overplayed, damn you all, but the Beethoven 7th Movement 2 was made for the bass. I
Okay.
mean,
What one
it
is that one?
dun, 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 bum,
Oh, da da
bum, bum,
da
bum,
da
bum, bum.
da
Yeah,
da
everyone does that,
da.
but
Oh my
the
god, that's
bass
another one that just gives me chills. Oh my
oh,
god.
I know, and you start off slowly no, you gotta understand basses do we ever get featured?
No.
Rarely, and then for Beethoven to have written this just for us, and then it gets louder, and then
Yes.
ba ba dun 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 dun, then the bass just go
Yeah.
boom, boom, and then it
Yeah,
goes
that's
da
great.
da da
Da,
da,
da, da.
and then it just goes crazy at the end. Yeah, that's a piece that probably is the greatest piece that I ever played. I'll say this: playing Beethoven's Seventh, the whole symphony, and also playing Beethoven's First.
Yeah.
It's an out of body experience because everyone wants to say, "Who's your favorite classical musician?" I'm like, "Damn it! It is such a cliche, but it really is Beethoven. It
I asked
really
my Will
is."
about that, and he's like, Beethoven. I'm like, everyone says
Everyone says it, but it's true.
it.
I, I mean, there's other ones that are great too. Dvorak, love him.
Yeah, Dvorak. I love Frederick Chopin, and it's like piano
Mm,
pieces are so sexy, or like Liszt too.
yeah, right.
I was like, there's so much. And like last week, I was like, I'm gonna listen to a lot of classical music because lately I've been on like a I don't know, like a I call it like ethno music, I guess, kind of a
Mhm,
trip where like I'm finding cool like folk songs and like folk music from like kind of like the Slavic areas and
mhm,
Eastern Europe and stuff, and that's really cool. And then I started listening to Duduk music or something. But anyway, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna listen to classical, and then I just got on this like Renaissance music trip, and it was just yeah, I got really distracted. But anyway, I found one today where it was just like it's a 2 hour thing. It's really worth listening to if you want to see sort of how like or hear how music evolved.
mhm.
It's if you just look up history of classical music, I think it's like the second thing that comes up on YouTube. It's like 2 hours of just snippets of music, and it
Oh,
was just so cool like to hear it. And then I was like, okay, I like Chopin a lot. And then like they had some lists like right after that, and I
oh,
was like,
Liszt.
damn dude, that guy's sexy. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well, and
wonder.
when you mentioned Chopin, his preludes, playing that on the piano,
Yeah.
see, that's what's so great about playing piano is
Yeah.
you're an orchestra of one. You can play it all. And
Hmm.
he's hard as hell. So is Liszt.
Yeah, that stuff is like it's insane when you see the sheet music. It's like all black.
Yeah. And
Like,
yeah. Well, one of my favorite cartoons is the one with Bugs Bunny. Where he's playing the Hungarian Rhapsody #2 and the
oh
mouse.
yeah.
No, it's not Bugs Bunny. No, it's Tom and Jerry. Tom and Jerry. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, shoot me now. No, Bugs Bunny is Kill the Rabbit. He's
Yeah.
Wagner.
Yeah.
But but Tom and Jerry, when as they're playing, as like a classical musician so wrote this cartoon because they had to use the mouse to do some of those notes because it's so friggin'
Yes.
hard. You have to have a mouse. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like
so to give you
crazy.
an idea, like it's like all these arpeggios, and arpeggios are chords that are basically you're playing like one note of
Mhm,
the chord. So you're like
mhm,
your left hand is starting way at the bottom of the piano, and then you're gonna go up to about the middle. Then your right hand takes over, but you can't quite get to the next note. So you got to put your left hand and play the note over there. So it's like your hands are crossing each other and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, it's insane. Um, but it's fun. It's very satisfying once you do it. But yeah, Liszt and Chopin, gosh,
Yeah, like Joshua said, Bach. Oh my gosh, yeah,
oh yeah, Bach. Well, hell, he's the
yeah,
god.
and yeah, Wagner, Bugs Bunny. Yeah, that's good, and that's a great for bringing that up because I was thinking about this is that it's like in a lot of ways, it's kind of think of classical music as kind of being dead, and I've always thought like, okay, people are still performing it and stuff, but like
Mhm,
I think it is really just moved into like the cinematic realm, and I think in two ways. It's like you have in one hand it's like people are composing new stuff for movies and it's awesome, and
mhm,
then you have things like the cartoons which are awesome, and they're introducing people to classical music. So you have like the silly symphonies, Bugs Bunny and all that stuff. You have Fantasia, and that's awesome.
mhm. Oh, gee. Well, even in the Beauty and the Beast no, it wasn't Beauty and the Beast, it was The Little Mermaid, where they brought in Oberon, with the can, we commonly known as the can,
Yeah.
so they'll just throw it in there. Gosh, have you ever the Overture to Oberon no, not Overture to Oberon, holy crap. Not,
What is that?
that Overture to Oberon is something completely different, but
Yeah,
it's
isn't it like
completely amazing.
Orpheus or something like that?
Orpheus in the underworld. Orpheus in the
Yeah,
underworld.
not to be
Yes.
confused with Leorfeo, which is really awesome too.
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah. Of course, Carl Maria von Weber is totally the same. So, oh,
Yeah,
gee, what an
yeah,
idiot I am.
yeah.
But,
Oh,
but it does. But people don't realize that even the that's actually a classical piece, and the
yeah.
Dance of the Seven Veils. That da 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 da. That's also
Yeah,
from a
yeah.
classical piece.
Yeah, oh, sure.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Is this a good time to introduce our, I can't call it a pub, this is a high class establishment here.
Because we're snobs. Yeah.
Yes, we are
We're the
snobs.
high
So
class
you know
classical
what?
establishment.
You know what? It's funny because I never caught the pub crawls live, and I always watch your other videos. So I was like, I'm gonna like listen to a few to get an idea of the show, and then I saw okay, everyone's picking out a place. So I was like, I need to think of something cool, and I thought I would pick a salon because that's where a lot of classical music started. A lot of like, especially the early stuff, like Mozart, Haydn, and Bach to an extent, it was all like aristocracy would have in-house musicians composing music for them, and they
Mhm,
would perform in the salons. And so I just looked up salon and found this really cool picture, and they were very
mhm,
fancy like drawing rooms. You would have the musicians in the middle and people would listen to them like a recital, but then there would also be playing music while people were like having dinner or like playing cards or something like that. And salons were really cool too because it was like the heart of like the kind of like intellectual movements that
mhm,
happened in the 1700s and stuff. So I thought, it's not exactly a pub, so we're not gonna get like the Guinness and beer and stuff like that. We're it's a high class establishment. We're having wine and French champagne. So
oh, yes, exactly, and they didn't have record players, they didn't have CD players, that's the other thing, so they had to have it
hmm,
live. Mhm,
yeah, which is interesting because I was listening to the Jedi guy from Norway, that one like right before I left. And you guys were talking about nostalgia and you're talking about video like renting like videos from like a store. And I was
mhm,
like, that's a great point because it's like I think you guys were talking about how you didn't know what you were going to get because there weren't massive amounts of reviews. And that made me think about how much the way we consume music and media has changed. And
Mhm.
like a lot of time people, I don't think they really appreciate classical music as much as they could because they take it for granted. It's like we've all grown up with like the radio or like TV, music videos, MTV, Spotify, like YouTube music, like we go to giant concerts and stuff like that. And back in the day, it's like you didn't have those kind of experiences. Like it's really hard to think, but like in like the Renaissance and stuff, like early Renaissance, especially coming out of the Middle Ages, like the church controlled the music. And
Mhm.
so it's like they had like they would employ musicians. And of course there were people like playing stuff in taverns and whatnot, but like, they hadn't really like figured musical notation and stuff like that. So it wasn't like you could disseminate pieces of music. It's just like if you could just copy what somebody was else was playing and learn that way. So it's kind of like thinking about silent movies, and sometimes when you watch that, it's like, "Oh, this is so boring and basic," but you don't think that no one had ever done this stuff before. So when you get to the salon, this is like the front row seat at, like, the Jay-Z concert or something like that,
Yes.
so
Well, that's exactly it, yeah. Well, they used to think that some of the music in the more romantic period was obscene because it
Yeah,
would bring up these feelings of, it was like Elvis. Beethoven, technically from the classical period,
yeah.
but he was bridging it a little bit, but
Yeah,
his
he was
music,
like that late classical, early romantic.
yeah, and people would just be like, heaving bosoms and
Yeah.
like Elvis shaking his pelvis. That's what that music
Yeah,
was.
and a lot of it is like I was thinking about, the opera L'Orfeo, that was like a Monteverdi,
Mhm,
opera, and I remember writing a paper about the because I should probably preface this about, like, I love classical music so much, but by the time I got to college, I was really burnt out on music, so what I ended up doing is I took a bunch of music history classes
mhm.
and then ended up becoming a music history minor. I was 3 units away from being a double major because I don't like theory classes, so I didn't wanna take it. I kinda wish I did, but so I studied musicology when I was in college and, along with English, and musicology is like sociology and music history, so it's like we were studying the impact of music and different types of music, and the program because I went to UCLA, the program there was, really cool because they were really into studying, like, pop music and contemporary music, and a lot of colleges didn't do that, so I got to geek out with the classic music and classical music stuff, but I was also taking, like, the history of electronic dance music, and it's like, "Oh, for homework, you have to go to a rave," so
Wow.
yeah, but I like the classes. One of my favorite classes was a Bach class, and at the time, and still to this day, Bach is not one of my favorite composers, but I was really good at the class and I could understand it a lot. And the teacher's like, "Oh, someday, Lisa, you are going to love Bach." And I've grown to like him a lot more than I did. So
Yeah, a lot of our music theory classes were based around Bach because, so help me, that man practically invented it, you know? Yeah, yeah. I love the concept of most of his music, a lot of his organ stuff especially was, "Oh, crap, I gotta think of something to play this Sunday for church. I guess I'll have to
yeah,
write it." Nowadays, if you go to a church where they do have a proper organ and where they do a proper prelude, both Protestant and Catholic, more traditional services, it
uh,
will almost always be Bach because that man, his
yeah,
output was unbelievable, and it was so mathematical. When you mentioned theory, I had a great deal of trouble with very high level theory.
yeah.
It's so complicated. You gotta, like, take apart friggin' Bach. It's like, there's a reason he was a
Oh my
genius.
gosh, yeah, it's so crazy, like, especially with that, like, Baroque music and stuff, it was
Mhm,
really big on, like there's, like, point and counterpoint, so it's like you have a melody and you have a counter melody, and Bach was a genius at being able to run, like, uh there would be at least 2, but sometimes you would get 3 or 4, and it's so crazy, one of the fun things about, speaking of UCLA stuff, I had a teacher that taught the history of rock and roll, and that was a cool class. And the class was like he or like when we got to like what was it like 80s metal and stuff. We read some stuff out of a book that he had written, and I think it was called gosh, what was it? I can't think of the name off the top of my head. I was gonna look, but it was a very like influential book where he actually compared the like box music and that like era to like 80s like virtuoso guitar stuff. So like what was that band called? Oh, like I think it was Van Halen or something like that, but he was really like he would get into like comparing it to like where it was like the things that he noticed it were like okay, there's an emphasis on virtuosity, and that a lot of the ways that that music was put together was very similar to like the classical stuff. And yeah, I'm just blanking on the name of this thing. I'm gonna like look it up, but it is a
Yeah,
very
I know
cool
what you
book.
mean.
And
Well, and a lot of
yeah.
heavy metal, actually, Zach says, sorry, Meteor Advocate Timon, hello, says, yeah, it's called heavy metal. Well, yes and no. I mean, you really can't call heavy metal classical music, but there is a lot of heavy metal and a lot of modern
Yeah.
pop music that is definitely uses the elements from it, from the great music. And that's how you can tell when something's crap and when something's not. There's an artistry
Yeah.
to it, and they're usually very well trained musicians. I've noticed that I always go back to, I believe,
Yeah,
Sheila
like,
Easton.
especially that era where the, like where it was really heavy on, like, the guitar solos and the skill was
Mhm,
there, and it was, like, big in the '80s, but, like, you really don't see that, like, later in rock to that extent until, like, the only thing I could think that's really, like, technical rock music is, like,
mhm,
Tool and stuff, but mostly
mhm.
because they do, like, weird time signatures and stuff, so
Yes. That skill doesn't come from nowhere,
yeah.
and it sometimes drives me a little bit insane when people go, "Oh, you just play it." It's like, "Yes, we just play it after studying our entire lives," and, it's like doing brain surgery. Uh, it's as complicated but different, and, of course, if you are conducting, holy hell. I don't
Yeah,
know if
that
you've
is
done a
it's,
lot of
like, so
that.
crazy, and I think a lot of people kind of think that, like, classical music is kind of highfalutin too, because it's like, we can't experience classical music the way that it was experienced back in the day. It's like
Mhm.
people just don't go and sit and listen to music in a theater kind of a thing. It's like they are, like, doing something else. You're driving, you're, like, working out, you're, like, whatever, and like, you're not sitting in the hall. So, of course, like, if you go to do that, it's probably going to seem really boring to you, and the whole
Snobby.
yeah, yeah, snobby, and it's, like, I think the kind of reputation for classical music being that way is really just it's not fairly earned, so, yeah.
No. And speaking of which, when we talk about classical music, the term is generally referring to the music, the art music from the Western civilization of the past 400 years or so.
Yeah,
Now,
that's good. We should, define, like, classical music, yeah.
that's what we think, yeah. And as opposed to sometimes the classical period is a better way to say 1750 to about 1820. So sometimes you might hear it used interchangeably, like, oh, classical music, you're talking about Bach. No, technically he's Baroque. But or
Yeah.
if I'm talking about classical music, sometimes I really just mean Mozart or Beethoven or Salieri. Though don't Mo okay, Amadeus is fiction, okay, kids?
Yeah.
It's
Fun
total
story
fiction.
about that's about it.
But I
I loved
appreciate
that movie as a kid though, like, I just was like I was okay, like, my first, like, classical music crush had to be, like, Mozart, like, I just thought Mozart was so awesome, like, oh my god, he's a genius, like,
yeah.
he's young, he wrote all these really cool things, he wrote, like, all of the pieces that I'm playing in, like, to learn the piano books and stuff. I think it was, like, my first, like, musician crush, and then, like, later on, I'm like I found, like, Chopin, and I'm like, "Yeah, Chopin,
Yeah.
that's sexy."
Yeah, but I do appreciate what the movie did because
Yeah,
it gave a boost a bit to his
yeah,
music and showed a little bit of the rock star status. That was not exaggerated, that's the way a lot of them
not
were
in the
treated,
least, but
and all the hot chicks. Well, you've got the heavy metal people who have the groupies. They would have the sopranos
yeah,
willing to bred them for them, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, boom,
Yeah, they definitely had that going for
they
them,
had
and I
groupies.
mean, it was a cushy job. I mean, like, look at, like, because like, Mozart, like, his dad, he was, like, a court musician, and
Mhm,
then he started teaching his son and stuff like that, and when he saw he's like, "Okay, my kid is, like, a prodigy, I'm gonna bring him to the court," and
mhm,
it was really, really, like, a cush gig just to have, like, the musician part, but if you could, like, get the, like, patron there to support you
mhm,
as a, like, composer and stuff like that, man, you would be getting, like, that's it, like, somebody that was, like, from, like, a really low economic, or social, strata could move up, and I think that's really what happened with Mozart. I know that's definitely what happened with Bach,
mhm.
and yeah, I mean, it's so crazy.
Yeah, and they were teachers. They just like
Mhm.
today, if you know anyone from your local professional symphony stuff, you teach. I don't know if you give private lessons, but that's a huge part of my life. It always has been. It's a side gig, but it's also part of our craft and passing it on. And it does need to be
Yeah.
done one on one with a master musician. My
Yeah,
teacher was a
definitely.
symphony, yeah, was a symphony member, and in college your professor it was a thing, and you're always honing your craft. Because we talked earlier about how difficult it is. It really is difficult to play.
It is difficult, and I think there's, like, other skills that kind of come with it too. It's like one of the things that, like, you don't really think of is, like, it takes getting used to playing with a group of people. It's very
Mhm,
hard. You need to listen to your fellow musicians and what's going on. You need to, like, learn how to navigate reading your music, listening to the other people in your section, watching the conductor and stuff, and, like, especially when you get to the point where you're, like, a professional and stuff, you have to be really, really good at, like, sight reading, so it's like you
mhm,
have to be able to, "Here's a sheet of music, we're gonna play through this, like, maybe twice, and then we're gonna perform it," and
precisely.
there's yeah, it's a that's really hard, and yeah, especially when you're playing, like, the French horn because it's not like, "Okay, this is I'm gonna press this key and it makes this note," like, you can be a little bit off on your, like, stuff, so it's, like, developing your ear and all this stuff, so
Yeah. Well, this for the all the horns, the shape of your mouth affects the sound
yeah.
and the it's like, "Oh, I'm gonna do this," and then that'll make it this sound, or it can make it
Yeah,
very flat
absolutely, which
or
is
out of
why
tune.
I didn't really wanna do marching band that much because it can really screw up your embouchure, and then I needed them, but I didn't get braces when I was in high school because I was playing the French horn, and I didn't want
Mhm.
it to ruin that up, so
Yeah.
I eventually did in college.
Well, yeah, and you're absolutely right. Yes, see, my music teacher tried to get me and my class to learn how to play this shit flute. Nobody learned anything. The whole class was tone deaf. I I believe you're referring to the recorder,
Yeah,
and
the recorders.
that's what they make kids learn. It is probably a simple instrument, compared to the other, like, the oboe. It's like,
Yeah,
don't
the
don't
oboe
even get me
seems
started on the
like
reed.
the double reed instruments seem to be, like, really crazy.
Nightmare. Yes. Technically, I know sort of how to play all the instruments because that was my major symphonic one of my majors. I was history as well. But,
Oh, wow.
um, it's you wouldn't wanna hear me play any of 'em. Let me this way, except for the recorder, and I think a lot of that has to do with some of my class teaching as well, working with the young ones. I would also say sometimes, Steve, that it depends on the teacher, or even it
Yeah.
might even not even be the teacher's fault.
The first, like, bad teacher I had, his name was Mr. Hawks, and he was, like, this skinny, skinny guy, and he had a bald patch, and he had these 2 red, like, moles on his, like, forehead, and he would get so angry at us, his moles would change color.
Oh, dear, yeah. Well, because people act
Oh
like
my
little
god.
shits, and I
They
don't like the
do.
way a lot of schools do general music. They'll have, like, 1 day a week for 30 minutes. It's like, of course, the kids, you can't really achieve much.
Yeah, you
You
can't do much at all.
eh, there are ways to make it more interesting, but I know what you're talking about, and having been the teacher on the other end of the class that doesn't wanna do it, and you're like, "Damn it, this is my job. I've gotta, find the
Yeah.
right." Give me a break here. Just pretend you're playing. Uh, William Richards says, "I've
Uh,
always wondered how much teamwork matters in classical music. Sheet music and the composer doesn't keep everyone on schedule." Absolutely, teamwork is everything. You have to, and that's why it's good for you too, because you can't be a prima donna in an ensemble. It
yeah,
just
you
doesn't work.
can't. But, like, to answer the question, yeah, I think, like, if you had a small group of people and say, like, in the salon, for example, you'd have, like, a string quartet or a quintet or something like that,
Mhm,
and, you play in kind of a semicircle usually, and you guys, usually, like, one person starts or somebody sets the tempo, and you might tap or count or something so everyone gets it, and then you can listen to each other and look at each other too, and that makes, being able not to have a conductor, like, work. And then, like, another, thing that you can do without a conductor is, like, if you're in marching band or something because you're
mhm.
basically there's a tempo, there's, like, movement steps that go with it, and you just know, like, the pattern and where you're going on the field. It's like, well, if you think, like, sports ball is complicated, you really, like, haven't seen anything until you're in marching bands because that
Mhm.
stuff is crazy.
Yes. And then when what the conductor does is the patterns are showing the time signature. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
sometimes it looks like they're just waving their arms like, no, there is an actual pattern to what they're doing. So
Yeah,
one
like
hand does the beat while the left hand will be the one like for like bringing people in. It'll be for, artistry
yeah.
and all that, and you've got like 120 people and you've got to watch the conductor. That's just all there is to it, because yes, you will all fall apart. You can do what Lady Balefire was just describing in a small ensemble, in a string quartet or a trio. It is impossible to do with a full symphony orchestra. And they
Yeah.
are looking, when you look at a piece of music, a score, they are reading how many lines? I mean, you could be reading up to like
I don't
18
know how
lines of
they do
music.
it. That's nuts. I mean, I had to learn, like, some parts of conducting to do because I was a drum major in my marching
Mhm.
band, and I had to learn that stuff, but it wasn't like I mean, we were moving usually, and I was, like, at football games and stuff, so it wasn't like having sheet music to read, but even doing that could be really difficult and
Mhm.
trying to communicate with, like, a large group of people that aren't always paying attention to you, so
Yeah, yeah. Now, the difference is there is a great deal of discipline in orchestra, especially when you're getting at the professional level, but even at the school level,
Mhm.
it has to be, and they don't tolerate any dissent. The conductor is king,
Mhm.
and you follow what they tell you. You don't play, you don't goof around. They lift up their arms and boom, it's time to go. And it's y-
Yeah,
they
that was always the treat, I think, with, like, the honor bands and stuff because it's like you had the people that were really talented, it wasn't just the school band. You didn't need to, like, just screw around and get everyone quiet down. It's like, "Okay, it's 7 o'clock. Like, you need to be warmed up and all that stuff, we're playing."
yeah,
That was refreshing.
yes, and you don't play around. In a professional orchestra, it's really serious because there are unions, and once
Mhm.
your rehearsal time's over, it's over.
Yeah.
We would start packing up our instruments, because if you're not being paid, you don't play. It is literally pay to play.
Yeah, I never got to that point. I think, like, I did so much of the local things in my area because I
Uh,
lived about, like, an hour east of LA, and I did everything that I could in my local area, and I think by the time that I did that I'd been doing it for so long too because I did it, like, elementary school, junior high, high school. I was just so burnt out on it. I didn't wanna
mhm.
be a professional. I was just sick of it. I It's like I'd met all of the people that played professionally, and I was just, like, just totally burned out, so,
Yeah.
I did do the musicology thing, and then funny enough, I ended up, like, getting a certificate in audio engineering because I still wanted to be involved in music, so that was really fun. So I
Mm,
didn't stop, I just kept going with that stuff, and that led me to learning a lot of different things, and that was funny because I was thinking about, like, one of the first like, I had, like, 2, like, classical music recordings when I was a kid, so this is right when, like, CD players came out, so I had this, like, it was this kind of collection of like classical music that you could get from Costco, and it had like, Beethoven, Mozart, like Bach, like just basic stuff. And then the other one I had was this like cassette, and it was called, I think it was called like Hooked on Bach or something like that.
Yeah, I remember those,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. So what's a really and the cool thing, I didn't even realize this until I was an audio engineer, is that was one of the first electronic music recordings that was popular, and it was made on a very like early synthesizer. And the way that the synthesizers worked is that every note on the keyboard was a recorded loop that would keep continuously playing, and the way that they changed the sound of it was by using like modulator electronic effects. So it was basically like you'd hit the note, like the electron or the tape would start playing, and then the output from that would go through a bunch of like resistors and capacitors and stuff like that, and it would change the sound. So that was really cool in the way that it sort of like, it brought Bach to a different audience, and then it was like really instrumental in the history of music because like electronic music, and here we are with like EDM and everything. So
Mhm.
that was fun.
Yeah, it's badass. There's a lot of good points. Yeah, we mentioned a little bit at the beginning, Timon, about the role of classical music in cartoons, and you're correct. The cartoons did all of them. It had all of those musics, and there is something to be said about if you are not trained, if or even if your ear is not used to hearing great music, yet you will not recognize crap music, and you will create crap music or garbage.
Yeah.
Sometimes people will tell me over and over again, "How can I get my kid to love music?" I tell them, "Play great music to them. It's that simple."
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things that's really interesting that I was thinking about by watching when I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna listen to classical music because 'cause I'm gonna talk about this on a stream next week." I
Mhm.
went down the, like, Baroque and, Renaissance music, and I got lute pilled, you guys. Lutes are, like, the coolest thing ever,
Hell
and
yes.
I saw this guy, he had a video, he was playing what's called an arch lute. Now, a lute is kind of like a, guitar, except it has a round body and the bowl is usually pretty deep, and, I think they usually have double strings, and then this arch lute, though, it had the 12 double strings, and then it had, like, another, like it wasn't a secondary neck, but it was another set of strings that were attached to the neck, and they were, like, bass notes. And this thing
Mm,
was so crazy. It just blew my mind as an audio engineer because first of all, it's extremely loud, and people
mhm.
don't realize, like, music now, like, dynamics is not a thing in popular music, and that's huge in classical music,
Yes.
and that comes from, like, the fact that, like, if you're playing a non-amplified instrument, it's easier to modulate the volume of it, and when they amplified music, like, you couldn't literally do that unless you turned up the gain on something. So it's like, music became very one dimensional in terms of volume. And so like I'm hearing this like lute, and it's so loud and it's not
Mhm.
amplified, and I'm just like, dang. And then the other really cool thing is that the acoustics of the bowl were such that like it sounded like it had the most beautiful reverb, and it came from like the bass strings and just naturally vibrating with the other strings. And I was like, this is so crazy that people like in the 1600s, this was like a modern reproduction of a period instrument, but like they could make something like that.
Mhm.
And
Oh,
yeah, it says like it just blew my mind. I was like, wow.
they were building cathedrals in one place and those kind of instruments in another.
Yeah.
It was genius, and you're right, amplified music is incredibly boring because
Mhm.
you're not doing the volume. They're doing it for you. Like, when you're playing real music with real instruments that aren't amplified, you have to create the volume, and there is nothing. I've said it before, nothing like just go and see a Beethoven symphony, or Beethoven ninth. Oh my gosh,
Oh my
and
gosh, that's
with the
cool.
choirs and
Oh,
all of
the
that,
joy. Yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry. You will just be transported into another dimension. It is that incredibly cool. I heard the New World Symphony recently, And when they got into the dun 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 dun, I just teared up. I just started to cry because
I
there's nothing
do.
like
I yeah, I do that too. It's so crazy.
yeah, the little oboes and all them and just going
Yeah.
with the tune and just seeing it. There's a reason why these great composers are great because they were creating Sistine Chapels every week. It
Yeah.
unbelievable. Yeah, Steeks points out they had a professional lute bard, not kidding, write the music for the Ultimate games. I believe that. Yeah, a lot of that
Yeah.
80s music, and maybe you studied some of those, even the Commodore 64 music, that was kind of intense, actually. There was a lot more
Yeah.
behind that.
That's
E
really cool.
electronic. Um, yes. Oh my gosh. Did you ever do any choral work?
I really didn't, but I was thinking about it was really funny because there was a countertenor singing with the lute
Mhm.
player in some of the videos, and it just like I was trying to look up what exactly a countertenor was because I was thinking like, okay, the era that this music was being written in, I'm probably thinking it was a castrati or something. And if you guys don't know what that is a male singer who has been castrated. Usually they would remove the balls so that like his voice wouldn't change. And I've heard some recordings of actual castrati who were that way through accidents and stuff that were like in the early like 1900s, and the sound is insane. Like it's like imagine a soprano, but there's like a depth to the voice. Like it's
Mhm.
really weird, and it's really cool. But it also reminded me of probably next time it is one of my other favorite like music period movies is like this one is called Farinelli about a very famous castrati, and yeah, that was a fun one.
Mm. Yeah, and that's something else that choral music, the body is actually the instrument that gives the timbre, gives the sound. Steve was saying earlier about how it's like a language, and it is. And timbre
Yeah.
is the word that we use for that. So, like for example, technically, I'm a Wagnerian soprano, and I always say
Oh, okay.
technically because I don't like to. It's more interesting for me to sing alto because I like the lines better, so I always lie. Well, no, I don't lie. I lie from a certain point of view. It's like, uh,
Yeah.
"What do you sing?" "Oh, I sing alto." I do sing alto, but that doesn't mean my body and it's something that you don't choose. You don't choose whether you're an alto soprano, mezzo soprano, contra alto, if you're a man, a tenor, and all that. It is
Yeah.
literally your body that chooses the sound and even the timbre of your voice. Because like a Wagnerian soprano, for those that don't know, it's the really big, huge, like the Brunhilde thing. That's where the whole
Yeah.
"It's not over till the fat lady sings." And that's the other thing about choral music. You can be as thin as can be and as fat as can be, and it doesn't matter. It's
Mhm.
body positivity was always there with opera. So,
Yeah.
but it doesn't matter because if the voice isn't there, it you can't do it. It's like trying to listen to a violin that's, out of tune and cracked and old. You have to have the quality of the voice. So that's what I do. So did a lot of choral work in high school. We did a lot of madrigals. So
Oh, that's cool.
a lot of high schools will have a madrigal choir kind of thing and do Christmas deals where you dress up. So I did a lot of that Renaissance music, which was fun, and the body stuff. That's
Oh,
hilarious
that is
because that
fun.
was their
Yeah.
bar music. They were like they were dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
Hey,
It
I took
sounds
my Shakespeare
snobby.
classes. Yeah, I know, right?
It sounds snobby, but you listen to the words like "dang," and it's like, yeah, that's what they did. They were singing. That's what you heard in pubs. And well,
Yeah.
the bard, that's a huge thing too.
Yeah,
The
speaking of,
entertainment.
Renaissance music and bards, and somebody asked about, earlier about, what was that? 60s music or something? And I was just gonna say, what was funny about getting Leopold was that there was this one really, famous, popular composer in, Elizabethan England, and he wrote this one really cool song, and I can't even remember the name of it because I was working and listening to this music, so I wasn't, reading it, but, it was so interesting, Sting did a cover of this song and actually sang, the counterpoint, in the different parts to it, and it was really cool, and, Yeah, but that's interesting because this music, like, and this sort of like Renaissance era stuff ended up being really influential on things like what is that song? Like Led Zeppelin and stuff like
Mhm,
that, and the sort of prog rock stuff. So like you get like Stairway to Heaven and like Nights in White Satin and stuff like that. And they're very influenced by these kind of like round songs. So yeah.
mhm. Oh, cool. The other cool part about being in choral music and being a Catholic is I got to sing a lot of these mass settings actually
Dude,
in
freaking singing
mass.
mass is so cool. Like I recently started going to church and we go to a Catholic church and it is an old school and so they have a really, really amazing organ. It's not like
Uh-huh.
a huge organ, but they also have like usually 2 to 3 singers and there are 2, like I want to say like mezzo sopranos, and then sometimes there's a guy. And oh my gosh, when they do like the whole sung mass, like, it is the most
Oh,
beautiful thing ever.
hell yes. And once on Christmas Day, we did the Mozart setting Mass in C, the simpler one, and when
Wow.
you do the Gloria, the was like, "Gloria," and the whole
Yeah,
crowd, I mean, it's just you're in friggin' heaven, and
it's transcendental.
yes. Now, I'd learned a lot of that music, in public school, actually, and in college, as studying it as great music, but doing it in the context of the
Yeah, that
mass
is so
at
cool,
mass.
and so many, like, churches have really just amazing acoustics, like,
Mhm.
wow.
Yeah.
It's so crazy, like, I the place that we played, it was in Claremont a lot of times for the orchestra, and we played in this, hall called Bridges, Little Bridges, and there's 2
Mhm.
like, on the campus. This is on, the Claremont McKenna Colleges area. There's, like, Big Bridges and Little Bridges. Nobody wanted to play Big Bridges because it's really big and the acoustics were bad, but, like, Little Bridges had amazing acoustics, and they had
Mhm.
a big organ in there, and it was so
Yes.
beautiful, like, oh,
Mm.
yeah, the organ stuff is like
Yeah.
yeah.
'Cause that's what it's made for. If you have the pleasure ever to go to the great cathedrals in Europe when they're not being burned down, they're
Yeah.
oh, don't even get me started on Notre Dame, but
Yeah!
you cannot rebuild Notre Dame. It doesn't matter.
Yes,
You can't. But those organs, and they will do concerts there almost every night. They are almost never dark.
that's
Be,
so
be,
cool.
because they're made for acoustics. They didn't have friggin' microphones. And
Yeah, people don't get that. That's what I was saying. It's like people like are so used to consuming stuff differently than they did back then
yeah.
that they don't really like appreciate like what people had to do to even hear music. It's like there's
Mhm,
no recordings. It's like if you wanted to hear music, you had to go to a church or like a theater or something. And like
mhm,
most of the times they didn't even have theaters, or you couldn't go to the theater because you were like a peasant or like
mhm,
poor or something. And yeah, speaking of that stuff, like, Soul Assassin was talking about Ave Maria, and I was trying to
mhm.
think, I think that was, like, Schubert or something.
Well,
I
there's
was like
several versions. The Schubert
yeah,
one's the most common one, which
yeah,
I call it the
but
Ave Maria. Yeah. You really have
yeah,
to pull up
yeah.
on your diaphragm for that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a diaphragm one, but, like, that's weird. That's, like, one of the only, like, classical ones I can, like, vaguely sing. I've never
Oh,
tried to sing before, but I like singing, and I'd love
oh,
to try, but I
uh-huh,
was thinking about that, and I'm thinking how that was like when you went to classical music to romantic music and how that changed. That was an interesting thing to hear on that 2-hour thing because it went from being, like, a lot of counterpoint, a lot of really technical stuff to like a lot more simple like melodies and stuff like that. And
mhm,
it's so cool to be able to have somebody put in all of these different eras and it's like right next to each other in time. So it's like you're dealing with like Mozart and then like less than 10 years later you start having Beethoven and
mhm,
within like 5 years of Beethoven, it's like you have like these really beautiful like Schubert stuff, and
Mhm.
yeah, and it's so crazy how it changes, and you're like, oh, that is that 5 years, 10 years, that's a huge amount of time, but like think about what you're dealing with. You have like small communities, like there's no railroads, there's no airplanes, there's no like telecommunication. It's like basically, oh, like this dude came to my town and he played this really cool like piece at church. Like this is really neat. Like maybe
Mhm.
we could maybe we could get our bishop to like get some music over or something like that. And yeah.
Yeah. And you made the good point about the church being the great equalizer, if you will, because anyone could go to mass, so that's where the
Yeah.
peasants would hear the music and get a free concert, if you will.
Yeah, definitely.
And and don't sell yourself out on the Ave Marias. Of course, the Schubert one is a great one, but I love the Brahms. It's a choral version actually for
Oh, okay.
female voices. There's loads of good ones, and of
Interesting.
course, the old Gregorian chant.
Oh
I
yeah,
did,
those are so cool. I love that stuff. It's so calming.
yeah, and then the medieval and Renaissance settings of sacred music is
Oh,
also a
so
blast. Oh, it's just so
it's
much fun.
subliminal.
Yeah, and it's a crime, frankly, that more churches don't use the music. We have the
Yeah.
treasury of the greatest music ever written, and they're like, "No, let's get out a guitar and sing on eagle's
Yeah.
wings."
I know, right? I
Ugh.
can't stand that stuff. It's like it's really like especially too because in the church setting, it's like you got some like, oh, we have a band and it's some dudes playing a guitar, and it's like this just doesn't feel like church to me.
No, there's a whole reason why, but don't get me started on that. That's almost a political discussion because
Yeah,
the,
definitely.
the architecture, they wanted to make everything bland for a reason, but
Mhm.
um, I just think it just is so insane that yes, you can see a lot of this great music in the setting of the mass on a Sunday in many places, but you can see it more in concert halls and in symphonies and in secular places because we're starting to abandon it. And there's been some things that Pope Francis did that I'm not going to talk about, but I kind of,
Yeah.
it's like,
Can I get
what?
a woot woot for Latin mass?
Yeah, it's like, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing the Latin mass," and you're like, "You do realize you are head of the Latin rite of the Catholic Church?" It's
Yeah,
like,
like,
"It's
I
the
wasn't
Latin
gonna
rite,
say
no Latin
anything
mass."
because 'cause I'm, like, new to this whole experience, but, like, bro, like, what?
It's it's insane. It's insane. The exact opposite of what every pope on the planet has ever done, including Benedict was a musician, and he really, really fought to keep a lot of that stuff alive and
Oh,
did
that's
the motu
cool.
proprio. And then yes, I don't know what Francis is doing, and that's a whole other different ball game. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
what we're facing. We actually have a pope who's head of the Latin rite telling us not to do Latin.
Yeah, bro,
It's
like,
like it's one
check
thing if
yourself.
okay, maybe Martin Luther, okay, I would understand, but someone like him, yes, because he was a Protestant. But it's like that's not what we do, okay? And with it, it's taking away the great music. And what's just so ridiculous is there's nothing more unifying than great music, not
Yeah.
shit music that is very narrow-minded. When you go to don't get me started. Okay, I got started. I won't go too far with this, but you go to Lourdes, you go to Notre Dame, or you used to go to Rome. That it's all in Latin, and everyone is singing their lungs out, and their voices are ringing. Because guess what? You got people from the Philippines, you got people from Germany, you got people from Ireland, you
Yeah.
got people from America. We all don't speak the same freaking language, but Latin is a great unifier,
Mhm.
and there's a reason why it should be there. But yes, I don't want to get too morbid, but maybe in a few years this will be solved. We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, that there is a literal attack on the great liturgy and the great music of the Latin
Yeah,
rite from
exactly.
the Pope. I'm
Yeah,
I
and I
clown
don't
world.
think people get it. It's like, you're thinking about, like, a cathedral and a giant church and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and it's all like, there's all here. It's like you have the majesty of the church. It's a complete artistic vision, and even if you're not religious and you're just looking at the secular, like, from a secular viewpoint, it's like you have a bunch of artisans came to make the architecture, to carve it, to build it, to decorate it, and then you have, like, on top of all of the things you see, there's an oral component to it in the music that you hear, which is why for
Mhm.
so many years that, like, the music was so integral to the church, and people like Bach, like, he had such a prolific career because he was, like, working for the churches and stuff like that, and like, I think that's why classical music got such a great start, because there was, like, the solid support from the churches, and then it
Mhm.
became moving out of the church, and then, like, when we start talking about Beethoven and stuff, that's, like, really when you even started to get away from the, like, patronage models, even because, like, you had operas coming out, and it's like, I could write an opera, and this opera could perform, and people could just buy tickets to this. Like, that was a revolutionary thing, like, back in the day.
Yeah.
And yeah,
In a
that's, like, another
concert?
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, people don't think about that. It's like, okay, when we got to the point where it's like, I wanna say, I really think it's Beethoven, I could be wrong on this, but around that, like, early 1800s is when you started having, like, opera houses where people could just buy tickets to see it. That's, like, I think another kind of popularization of the music, so it's really interesting to think about that and just how that changed the music and, like, what we started seeing, so there's less, like, giant, like, religious works, but there's more, like, stories set to music, so opera, and there's symphonies, and there's soloists, and different actual forms of music, like sonatas and stuff like that, that were really devised to showcase, like, so a single person's talent for an audience, and, like, that is really interesting to think of, like, if you really think about it,
Mhm. Yes.
and
And just how incredibly masterful it all actually is, and
And that's, like, another thing, like, to compare this to movies, it's like you could watch the black and white Joan of Arc, and you're like, "Okay, this is, like, a pretty good story, and they did a great job," and then you realize this was the first movie that ever had a close-up.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then you just think about that, like, imagine seeing a movie and there was, like, never a close-up of anything, and it's like, wow, and you really, I think if you go in with that mindset when you're thinking about classical music and stuff like that,
Yeah.
it's
Uh,
like it can change
yeah,
change how
you
you think about it.
yeah, trying to put your mind into it, and I know I keep saying it's masterful, but it really, truly is, and there's even been studies done about the part of your brain that works during with classical music. There was a that whole trend about the Mozart effect where everyone's like, "Oh, I'll listen to Mozart and it'll make me smarter." And they were right, but they were also wrong. You won't just
Yeah,
automatically learn things just by it. But
mhm.
if you do train your mind with it, it's the same part of your brain where you train for logical thinking, mathematical thinking, and
Yeah. I gotta say that's been one of my favorite things with music is that it's like it's something at one time is very like logic focused, like left brain stuff. So you've
mhm,
got like time signatures, notes, like on a scientific level, it's like vibrations making the frequency of certain things and stuff like that. And then on the other hand, it's like you have the artistic side of it. So you're
mhm,
like like I think one thing is really interesting and it's a way to, kids have trouble like learning like fractions or whatever is like to teach them music because it's like,
mhm,
if you can count it out, like that's you're halfway there kind of a thing. And I think it really helped me like develop like a spatial reasoning and stuff like that, but it
correct.
also made me like really artistic at the same time where I could find like creative solutions to problems that it's very special. Like I mean, even if your kids suck at music, like I would highly encourage them to try because like the like what you can get out of it is just so rewarding.
Yeah. I get a little bit cranky when sometimes people are like, "Oh, I suck," or "I don't have the talent," or I'm tone deaf." unless there's something physically wrong with you, you're not. You just haven't been trained how to do it. And you don't
Yeah.
have to be masterful. It is a fact that I have mostly in my career been an ensemble player and an ensemble singer because I was never like a huge standout talent. But that didn't mean that I couldn't do it and even make a career off of it. But let's even
Oh,
go lower.
absolutely.
Yeah, but also, you don't even have to be very good, even if you suck. Because yes, I run across students when I say they suck, that maybe that's not kind because I just got saying you don't really suck. But, you know the ones that are gonna go off and become the
Yeah.
concert masters and the ones that aren't, but they always get something out of it. It it it
Yeah.
it's good for them, and even if you never get to the huge, complicated things that we've been talking about, that's okay as well, because even at the so-called lower level, the same concepts that you see in the hardest of Franz Liszt rhapsodies,
Yeah.
the same concepts are there with a child's true folk song like Rain, Rain, Ring Around the Rosie. I've spent a lot of my career doing that because I've worked with little children. I'm a Kodai teacher.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, it's theoretically just as complicated, especially to a 5-year-old mind, to sing Ring Around the Rosie. And when you look at the intervals, when you look at the structure and
Yeah.
the way the hand motions go with it, there is intense brain surgery level of musicianship going on. And then of course it gets more complicated. So you might think, oh, all I can do is do something really simple. It's like, well, was it really simple? Or was it really something that was really quite intense?
Yeah, I know. I mean, like, my dad is kind of like that. Like, he's never been, like, an amazing musician, but he plays the guitar and he's taking lessons now and he's getting
Uh-huh.
better and I'm really happy, but he's, like, played the ukulele before and, like, he just likes playing it in his bedroom, and our little cat will come in and, like, sometimes she sings with him and it's the cutest thing.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
and
just fun.
dogs will do it too.
Yeah,
I
she
wish
sits she it was funny, I came when he was playing his ukulele one day, and I came in there and, like, very quietly because she's kinda skittish, she's sitting on his shoulder, and she's like, "Ee,
yeah.
ee." And then
Yeah.
and then she sees me at the door, and she just has this look on her face, and we ran away, it was so funny.
Mhm. Yeah. And so that's the other thing I would say to people. It's not just play great classical music to your children, but sing to them. Sing to them the little nursery
Yeah,
rhymes, even the verbal ones, like the Jack and Jill went up the hill to catch a pail of water. There's actually a rhythm to it. You can even speak it. You don't have to even sing to the children. That start them when they're 2, start them when they're 3, 4, 5, 6. Great children's music is
oh gosh,
is out there.
do you remember, like, we sing silly songs? Does anyone remember that?
Maybe that might have been beyond me, but
Yeah,
unfortunately, this is where the Disneyfication,
yeah,
things like Let It Go and all that, they all know that, and that's cute, but that's not great music, not as great as the old ones, and of course, they go back 600, 700 years. They go back to
yeah.
the Middle Ages and,
Yeah, that
um
was what kind of like the vein of those like we sing silly songs. So it's like, it's raining today, it's raining today, hello rain. And it's like around like that. And there were like different verses and stuff. Like,
Yeah,
it was great. I love those. I think there was actually like a book that had the music too.
mhm,
Lost in the dust of childhood.
yeah,
So many years.
yeah, so any of you with little people out there, find those old nursery rhymes, sing all those songs, Rain, Rain, the one that used to sing, "Oh, it's raining, come again some other day." That's the
Yeah.
So Me La, song, and it's starting them with the basic harmony and working with pitch and working with skips, all those kinds of things. It's
Yeah,
good
that's
stuff.
really cool. So,
Yeah, the quarter note, 2/8 notes.
yeah. So like what was your background with music education then? You since you like what are you teaching and stuff?
Well, when I was teaching when I was teaching, it was mostly actually elementary music. It
Ooh.
was in using Kodai and Orff instruments as well, but I'm primarily Kodai and vocal and
Oh, what is that? What are those instruments? And like,
oh, the
I've
Orff
never heard of
instruments?
that. Yeah.
Oh, well, those are the different schools and methods of teaching. The
Oh, okay.
Orff yeah, Orff is was also a composer and a pedagogist, and
Oh, okay. Yeah.
he was
Like,
one that used a lot of things
who
like
wrote that?
sorry?
What did he write? Yeah, I know.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know what he wrote. I know what his methods were because a lot of them didn't compose. So Kodai did compose, and they did compose, but we call them Orff. Like if you have the xylophone that you would have in your general elementary room, the
Oh, okay.
maracas, the
Oh, that's interesting.
all the percussion instruments, the triangle, a lot of things that you would think about in a percussion
Yeah.
section of a band, but they're little, you know what I mean? They're little and they have little shakers
Yeah.
and then they do that while they sing and they play and it's all
Yeah.
a whole
Oh,
method.
yeah, okay, he wrote, like, Carmina Burana, okay.
Yeah.
I actually had a CD of, like, that entire, like, thing, and if anyone's wondering, he's the guy that wrote that song that's like, "Dun, dun, 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 jugga, jugga, jugga," and it's got, like, the, like, timpanis, and it's like, "Dun, dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun." Yeah, it's a great piece of music, so
Yeah. So you more than likely used your teacher, if you had an elementary music teacher, used Orff instruments with your class. And Kodai, which I did a video about because they used Kodai in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but that's like, the whole hand signs, the do, re, mi, fa, so, la, ti, do, re, mi, fa, so, all of
yeah.
those based around there in the hand signs. And it's a method of music theory, and it actually fits in with classical music because I have used Kodai method and the hand signs and the Takadimi systems with
Oh,
college
wow.
students. It's
I'll
like
have to, like,
it
look into that, that's curious.
oh gosh, well, fortunately or unfortunately, I could talk with you all night about it because I am a true believer on it, but I have had kids going into an audition, they're like, "I just can't get this rhythm," and it's like, 6/16 notes with 2/8 notes and a this and a rest on this. I said, "Here, we're gonna speak it, and we're gonna use this system, call it, takadimi ta, dimi ta," and they're like, "What?" It's like, "We're trust me." And then boom, they get it because there's a rhythm to music that if you put a certain syllable to it, it's a lot easier than saying 1 E and a 2 E and a well, all those weird things. It's like, no, just it's called the Takadibi. So that's Kodai.
I know, I'm always, like, thinks of, like, Tool music 'cause there's just one song that's, like it's like 7/4 time or something like that, and I just
Mhm.
think of this song, "I know the pieces fit 'cause I watched them fall apart."
Exactly. It's something
Yes!
similar to that, but it's actually a system someone came up with. It's
Oh, that's
very
awesome.
complicated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very
So,
cool.
shameless plug. I talk about it in my video. I don't know if you've seen it, the Close Encounters of the Solfege Kind, which is still only on part 1. It took me 6 months to make because it's so hard to put it into the concept. It's where I go into the history of the solfeggio system and Kodai because they got it wrong in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. They said that he invented them. No, he didn't. It was a big long story. But that is what I've taught for the most of my life, but I have brought it into my classical musician stuff. And I
Yeah.
have done some orchestra, but currently I'm not teaching.
Oh, that's good.
I'm one of
That's teaching
those
is really hard. Like, it's takes a lot of patience, and if you're, like, playing a lot, it can kind of, like I don't know how to explain it, but I think you probably know what I mean, where it kind of takes you away from, like, the higher level of performance.
yeah. Well, it can. I mean, but I've never had that issue. My issue with teaching was, well, the same reason every other teacher's been leaving. And,
Yeah.
you can hashtag why teachers leave, and the
Yeah.
politicians all wanna say, "Oh, it's, well, they just need more money, or they just need this, or they need
No.
better unions, or they wanna have more diversity and all that," and every single teacher says, "We're quitting because of the kids' behavior."
Yeah,
because it's
yeah,
out
my mom
of
used to work
control.
as a special ed aide, and she retired in, like, I wanna say, like, yeah, 2000, like, 5 or 6 or something, and yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't even that bad then, because, of course,
Yeah.
now not well, they can't only it's not just them being jerks, they've always been jerks, but now they can just physically assault you
Yeah,
and
that's
nothing
the if they were
happens.
having issues with that at her school, because it was pretty crazy, but yeah, that is scary, but hey.
Yeah. It's like, I'm done, like, the last time I got hit, I was like and the teacher was like, "Oh, we'll have a little meeting with him and talk about it and give him a reward if he doesn't hit you," and I'm like, "Fuck
That's not
this."
how this
But that's the
works.
way it is. That's the way it is because they will not expel, they won't even suspend students anymore.
Yes, that's
It's
bad.
insane, and there's reasons why they won't, and, it's teachers have finally had enough of it, and actually the real reason I quit, though, is he's still here because Steve can take credit for it. He actually told me to quit, and I did. So
That's good.
that's the re official reason because I was just so stressed out, and it was just like, "This is ridiculous.
Yeah,
Just
that's
quit."
not fun. That's kinda like what got me to, like, not wanna play classical music, because it was just so stressful, and it was,
Mhm,
like, really super competitive, and I don't know.
mhm.
I in my youth orchestra, it's like it was one of those places where there was, like, the little Asian kids that have been playing violin since they were, like, 3, and they
Yeah.
hated it, and they were miserable, they didn't wanna do it, but their parents were forcing them to do it, so it's like you're always dealing with those kind of people, and then there were people like me that genuinely just loved it. And then
Mhm,
it was hard because it's just not a very big, like I guess pool of musicians. So it was like
mhm.
you're always running into the same people all the time, which is quite unfortunate, but I still love music and
Yeah.
I still appreciate it.
Oh, well, absolutely, and it's like a love. I know what you mean about the competition because you don't know the meaning of the word competition until you've been around classical musicians and
Yeah, like
singers.
what was that movie that had Paul Giamatti in it? And it was like the like jazz musicians. God, what was that called? Uh
I don't know, but it's probably very similar, and it's the same in opera. Oh gosh, opera. You want to talk about opera and in ballet and everything. Actually, I did do something like that. William Richards. I might do one more another time, maybe in more detail. But it was a live stream I did that's called "Who's Sitting Next to Your Child at School,"
Oh, whoop.
and I can tell you, I it will make your hair fall out. And I keep
Oh my
telling people,
goodness.
you don't know because they're not allowed to tell you that these kids are there with your kids because that's taking away the
Yeah,
kids' privacy, and that you would be shocked. And
yeah.
it's really dark, so but yeah, look at that, live stream, and I do speak about it.
Oh, Whiplash, yeah, that's what it was called,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you, yeah. Gonna watch that one. Oh, well, thank you very much. Like I said, it'll terrify you, and it's all true, all of it.
No, thank you very much, Ancient One, I really appreciate that, like, yeah.
Yay.
Speaking of, like, Soul Assassin, talk about Lindsey Sterling and Tina Grau are, like that's really cool. I was wanted to ask you this, is that, like it's really weird listening to, like, modern classical music. Have you
Mm,
found anyone, like or do listening to anything like that?
no, no, I can appreciate modern performers, but as far as any classical musicians along the lines of the ones we're familiar
Like,
with in
composers?
modern times,
Like,
yeah.
I found this guy that I really like, and I found him through listening to, soundtracks, and the guy's name is Max Richter,
Mhm,
and he, like, has done some absolutely just gorgeous music that really kind of reminds me of, like, the kind of simplicity and sort of emotion of, like, the romantic composers and
mhm,
stuff, and, yeah, Max Richter, like, he did this one on the nature of daylight. It's a song, it's in the movie Arrival, but I believe he wrote that as a standalone orchestral piece. And then his soundtrack for The Leftovers was really awesome. And he's also
mhm.
done this one. It's a classical album and it's called the Blue Notebook. And it has this one song called November on it that is just amazing. It's it's like a violin solo, and it's got this really cool like orchestral counterpoint, and it's just like it's a song that like gives me chills. And like
Mm,
someone did a really amazing music video for it too, but I really enjoyed him. And then I found this other like film composer. I think his I can't I'm gonna butcher his name. His name Abel Korosowski. He did the soundtrack for a movie called W.E., that crappy movie with Madonna about Wallace and Edward, like the guy that abdicated the throne
oh my gosh.
in the
Okay.
UK. It's a really like that's a great soundtrack, and he also did Penny Dreadful, and Max Richter did another really good one for like a show called Taboo, and I really like the melody of that because it just sounds so much like an 18th century like or not 8 or 1800s level like kind of a waltz thing, and it's really cool. Oh yeah, Ludovico Einaudi, I like him too. He's really cool. And there's like I can't say this guy's name. It's like Ulfur like Arnauds or something like that. He's
Mhm,
kind of like Einaudi. And there's another guy that I found. He's a pianist. Like his name's Jan Tiersen. That like does again. It's like I'd say it's more like minimalist, like kind of
mhm.
going from like the like more romantic, like late classical era kind of stuff. But yeah, it's kind of hard, but like I've found a lot of really cool things. Like if I watch stuff on YouTube and I like enough things, sometimes I'll get like this recommendations, like here's a recommended playlist for you, and I will just find some really cool stuff on that. So
Well, no,
yeah.
that's good. That's good to hear. But if I'm correct, we're still not creating Dvorak. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the 20th century ones that
Yeah,
are doing
yeah, it's
symphonies that are
like
played in symphony
yeah, I don't
halls.
know, like, the whole like, I mean, Max Richter has done, like, symphony hall stuff, and oh, Philip Glass is another really good modern
Oh, I know
composer.
him. Yeah.
Philip Glass is awesome, like, he and that was another one that I found through, like, film scores and stuff,
Yeah.
or
Yeah, and Stig's talk
Koyaanisqatsi or whatever that is, that's a trip.
yeah. Now, Stig is correct about, for example, the first Conan has an amazing structure. I guess that counts as classical type music, and that's probably a good way to put it because movie music is in its own little realm. But I do find that great soundtracks use classical music. They're not using,
Yeah.
like J John
That being
Cage.
said,
I don't
I
like
do not
John
think
Cage.
that, like, yeah, John Cage is kinda
Yeah,
but
see, he
that
ruined things for a while. See,
he
he's
did, like, with all of that, like, modernist kind of, like, dissonant crap, like, I don't know, like that.
yeah, so for a while and understand when I came of age, that was still what a lot of the original classical music kind of was. It was
Ugh,
and it's just bleh, but it was where in movie soundtracks where they retained them. For example,
yeah,
John Williams with his Wagnerian leitmotifs and all that, they do
yeah,
use elements of great classical music, and the reason is because that's what people like, and one could argue going to the cinema or movie music is what the popular people are listening to when it comes to instrumental music, so
yeah,
it makes
definitely, I
sense.
totally agree with that, and that, like, made me think of, like, I was listening to, that history thing, and it was really cool
Mhm.
because they plays, Gustav Holst's The Planets, and they played, like you always hear what is the one that they always play from that? Like Mars or something like that, but they were
Yeah,
played,
the
like,
one that
Ju
John Williams used in Star Wars?
yeah, but they were playing Jupiter, and I'm like, yeah, if the like, John Williams would not exist if, like, the planets wasn't a thing
Yeah,
kind of a thing.
and that's okay, it was a tribute, and that's why I sometimes
Yeah.
say some soundtracks, to be gentle, are not always as original, but they have a different goal. I'll be nice and say that.
Yeah, that's why I was like and, like, another one that's sort of like an instrumental and, like, it's not classical, but, like, I love, like, Trent Reznor's, like, instrumental music. It's
Mhm,
so cool.
yeah.
But, oh, yeah, different thing for sure.
Yeah. And I guess this leads us into a bit of who really are our favorites. We've been talking about the normal ones, but if I were to say to you, like, who is your ultimate favorite classical musician, or maybe composer, or perhaps maybe it'd be fair to do a top three. Who would you choose? Like, just you've got to listen to this person's music. This is
Oh
just
God,
everything
I
there
don't
is.
know.
Yeah, it's hard to
It's
do, isn't
so
it?
like weird. I mean, man, that is so hard for me because it really goes with like my mood so much. It's like,
Hmm.
you know what? I'm gonna say like my that one music history teacher was right. Like there's I've been coming back and listening to Bach like a lot. It's not my favorite, but man, I do think like Chopin is like the best. Like he is like so I just think there's something that's like it's the greatest mix between like the crazy like theory and techniques of Mozart, but with kind of like the feeling and emotion of the like romantic era and like classical stuff. I really like I've liked him since I was a kid and
Hmm.
dude, like it's hard. It's like it's so hard. It's like
Yeah,
there's like
it's like choosing
certain
between your
pieces of
children. Yeah,
Vivaldi, and I'm gonna say that I love Max Richter too. Like
Mhm,
I the stuff that he's done, like the Blue Notebook, and he just did another one that was like really good. And I just think it's really cool because it's like if you study this stuff, you can kind of hear how it's changed. Like where does he get his like if like where is this coming from, like the history of it. And it is interesting to find something that's like new like that, like Max Richter, because it's like there was this sort of like I think it started about like in the 70s and stuff. It's like you got from the crazy stuff like Stravinsky and stuff, or Stravinsky, I don't know how
mhm,
to say that. And they got toward there was like a minimalist movement, and I think he's probably closer to that. But I do
mhm.
enjoy Max Richter all the time. I mean, I have this sort of like playlist of stuff that I listen to when I go to sleep if I can't sleep, and there's a lot of his stuff on there. But I think like Chopin and God, like
Yeah.
Max Richter did like a really cool like reimagining of Vivaldi's The Four Seasons. That's really cool.
Mhm.
And
Gosh,
dude,
yeah,
I don't know,
Vivaldi.
like
Yeah, you can't.
Mozart,
You can't, can you? Yeah.
Mozart. Yeah, gonna give it to my OG classical music boyfriend here. So
Yeah, Mozart. Well, I love Vivaldi, I love Bach, I love, well,
yeah,
Carl Maria von Weber
Neighbor
and
is
Fingal's
awesome.
Cave, and Brahms. I'm cheating for my own thing, you know?
Or like
Dvorak.
yeah, or like Strauss. Like Strauss freaking slaps. Like fun to play. And like I don't know, I've also done a historical reenactment, and we did like there would be a Victorian ball, and I went to that a couple of times, and it's just like when you hear that music and you're like dancing to it, it's like
Oh,
wow.
yeah.
Like
It's like,
especially
holy
in
shit.
like the historical outfit and stuff like that, it was like wow, that stuff just hits. Like
Yeah.
it's fun, it's fun.
Yeah, and, there's a reason why these are people are so popular, and it was supposed to be danced to. It's supposed to be this
Yeah,
big,
exactly.
great hall.
The Waltz King. Oh,
Yeah.
Debussy's so good. Like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah,
Clair de Lune.
yeah, all great. Of course, Beethoven. I think I said earlier,
Beethoven,
Beethoven is
yeah.
it's unoriginal, but, hey, it's the truth.
It's good
It
for a reason.
it's just, amazing for a reason.
But you gotta get off the
Haydn.
beaten path.
Mhm,
Go look at stuff like different kind of listen to the whole symphony, not just the one piece that everyone plays. Like
correct. Mhm.
Eroica is awesome. That's really good. Like the other piano pieces, like yeah, and it's good. And what was another one that was I was like all the different Bach music. Ugh.
Yeah, yeah, I like the way you say, like, the ones off the beaten path because, well, the Hungarian dances by,
Yeah, Hungarian
yeah,
dances are so good.
yeah, and the Dvorak, oh gosh, what are those called? Something dun 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 dun. I played a whole
Yeah,
bunch
he
of
did
them,
a
like,
lot of like Hungarian dances. Like I
mhm,
was like in the retrospective had a bunch of those, and I think there were like a lot of people kind of coming up from that area, like that were kind of really getting into the sort of nationalistic ideas and kind of
mhm.
integrating some folk music and stuff too. Just
Yeah,
fun. Oh, Tchaikovsky is so good too.
Yeah. Oh, not to mention Tchaikovsky, he definitely was
Oh,
into the national gosh, see, yeah, you're right, we can't choose,
you
uh,
can't choose, like,
too many.
it's like your age, what's like what are you going through in your life? Like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and then you got,
it's changed.
Monteverdi, you've got
Oh, Monteverdi, oh, so good. I know, I
yeah,
really liked I can't say it, the Corazon de Papaya. That
mhm.
was a really cool one. Nerone, Bobby.
The Slavonic dances, and see, that's the
Oh,
other
yeah,
thing, remember
Slavonic dance.
yeah, I knew it was so called something, 'cause the
Oh, yeah,
Brahms was the one
great,
that did the
yeah.
Hungarian dance, and sometimes people are really ignorant. For example, I'm sitting there teaching the little kids folk songs, and I'm like, "Yeah, that's not as fancy as the other stuff." It's like, what the hell do you think is in the great composers? They
Yeah.
incorporated folk songs into it. And Beethoven, he even got mocked on Beethoven's first, I believe, because they were like, "Oh,
Yeah.
it's just so peasanty," because it was based on some of the peasant music, if you will, from
Yeah.
Germany that he had heard. Yes, it's a great way to learn about Erlkönig, of course, yes, oh, shoot,
Oh,
I
yeah.
yeah, so if you're not used to it, I mean, just go for it. For
Yeah.
lack of a better word, find one of those classical music for dummies things, because those are they really
Those are
choose, like, the
good, yeah.
greatest hits. They'll choose the greatest hits of everything, or
Yeah.
Bach before bedtime, that's you find all these cute little names for them, but they're good. They're good for
Yeah.
you because it gives you the
Or, like, add
Santa.
some random, like, one of, like, Spanish classical guitar, like, oh, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah. Oh,
Dude,
yeah, hell yeah.
Bach wrote that, like, music for, like, guitar. I'm like, "What? Is there any instrument that man did not play?" Like, wow.
Oh, yeah, he was they don't make him like him anymore. Yes, Grieg, I love Grieg.
Grieg is
Norwegian
fun.
composer skilled. Yes, he definitely was skilled. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love him. Gosh, they're all just amazing. And there are some good modern day composers. I know it's controversial, but Andrew Lloyd Webber, it
Yeah, he is a really kind of a good yeah, especially with the musical theater stuff, like, he really
yeah, he really writes great tunes. I would say he's probably maybe an ancestor or descendant of Wagner a bit, though he's not as good
oh,
as Wagner.
definitely.
But
Yeah.
that whole idea that he writes these great luscious tunes that go with it. But he also has done some sacred music. He did the
Yeah.
Requiem he wrote for his father, which is as good, in my humble opinion, as anything that a lot of other classical musicians have done. Okay, when
Yeah,
I say
he
as
did a
good,
really cool song for, like, the Olympics, that was for, like,
mhm.
Sarah Brightman and
Yeah, Amigo
Pavarotti.
para Sempies, yeah,
Amigos
Semper, yeah,
para siempre.
yeah,
It's so
means
good.
you'll always be my friend, and
Yeah, you
yeah,
know.
I know. I felt like lightning was about ready to strike me when I said his Requiem is as good. Okay, it's not as good. It'll never be as good as Mozart and all them, but as
Yeah.
far as new music, what you're
Yeah,
hearing,
it's quite
I
good.
and the Pie Jesu is often sung at
Oh my gosh,
funerals.
that is so good, I like that song.
Yeah, his Hosanna in Excelsis is great. It's and he puts a little bit of modern stuff in it. And recently, I was losing my mind at the King Charles III coronation. I'm like, okay, yeah, they're all pretty yelled, all this shit, but Andrew Lloyd Webber wrote an anthem for it, and it was a
Mm.
choral anthem based on Psalm, I believe 98, "Make a Joyful Noise," and it was
Oh,
great.
wow.
And I'm
I'll have
saying
to,
that,
like, find that.
yeah, but it's little boys choir singing it, and you can
Wow.
hear that it's definitely in his style, but that is new choral music, and I don't know if anyone else is really writing things
Yeah, people
like
just
that.
don't write that stuff anymore. It's so sad. Uh, or you just get, like, these sort of, like it's just if there is choral music, it's, like, in a soundtrack, and it's, like, nobody's really saying anything, like
Yeah. Yeah.
or it's
Uh,
just sort of, like, the
through
voice
some
is like a synthesizer almost. Yeah, I
yeah.
agree, like, Piezo is a little, like,
Some
overexposed.
yeah, sadly too much, but like some music, it you forget it's actually really good because it's everyone sings it, but,
Yeah, it's
listen
like
to
hearing "Ode to Joy" like 50,000 times, like, oh, or like commercials, it's like, "Shut up."
exactly, but then you go back to the original, you're like, "Oh, hell yes." Oh,
Yeah,
hell
yeah,
yeah.
or, like, you know what? I had, a friend introduce me to Ode to Joy flash mobs. Like, you want
Oh,
if you're feeling down, like, and you want some good classical music, like, pick me up, just search that on YouTube, it's fun, it's so fun.
yeah. Yeah, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, I played with one of the dudes, what's his name? It is that my gosh, I forget what it's called. But yeah, that's kinda cool, though they don't tend to do original music.
Mm.
Um, but that's actually kind of fun. I did an orchestra mosh pit once. That was pretty awesome.
What? Okay, I gotta hear this story.
Well, no, I mean, it's what is his name? 'Cause well, he goes around to different schools, and I believe he's from the Trans-Siberian Orchestra,
Oh,
or he's
okay.
affiliated with it. So, like, it's got, like, Darth Vader's theme, but played like a rock thing, or, Beat It, or
Oh,
Thunder.
that's gotta be, like, some of my favorite things are when people do, I found this okay, I go on YouTube music rabbit
Mhm,
holes, and I went down this one of, like, bardcore, where people
mhm.
take, like, popular music and, perform it on, like, Renaissance instruments. That
Yeah.
is so
And and
fun.
it's fun, yeah, so we took it was something that was working with the schools. He travels around to the schools, so we were at this auditorium stadium, and we were all on the floor, and there was a stage in the middle, and just all these middle school kids, but it was fun. I mean,
Uh,
so it was like an orchestra mosh pit, if that makes sense, and yeah, we were just
yeah.
rocking out. It
It's
was really
fun.
fun,
God,
yeah.
that's so fun. Yeah, another really good one, it was, like, somebody did, it was, like, Nine Inch Nails songs as, like, orchestral lullabies.
Yeah.
Random, that's so fun.
Yeah, thank you for, yes, sending some links in there for those of you that will wanna
Oh,
see us
thank
later.
you, yeah.
Yeah, it does, in the
It
name of
does trigger
little
me, yeah,
baby
just
Jesus.
stop. I know, mostly because it's, like, it's something that'll always give me chills usually, but, like, when you see it and it's, like, some stupid commercial or something, like, oh.
Yeah. Oh, I remember this was one that was in Ireland based on the what do you call it? From the not Rogers and Hammerstein, Pirates of the Penzance. "We've got as much cheese as Rocky or Velveeta," or something like that, and so it's like,
Yeah.
"Don't do that to me."
I
"We've
know, it was
got as
like
much, cheese
there's
as
some
Velveeta or Velveeta cheese." And
yeah, like, oh, I hate when that or, like, there's some really good, like, Queen songs, and you're like, "Okay, I hate this song because they just always on, like" it was a car commercial or
Mhm.
something like that, and I'm like, "Shut up! Like,
Yeah, "Shut
stop."
up, don't sell a car
You
with
know,
this great music."
that's someone I would have loved to hear, like, sing opera, it would've been Freddie Mercury, holy crap, like, that man
Mhm,
had, like, a 4-octave range, like, get
mhm,
out.
yeah. Yeah, and yeah, and as you said, Nessa Dorma, it's one of those that it's so badly or overplayed that you forget it truly is a great
Yeah.
piece. I had the pleasure of getting to see Pavarotti live, and I was so glad I
What?
did.
Ugh, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Well, he was still with us, and I knew he was on a tour of America, and he came to the city where I was, and I was like, "Hell yes, I don't care how much it costs, I'm gonna see him." And he was as amazing as you can imagine. I mean, that
Wow.
man just had magic in his voice. Um, a lot of these great ones are going. I mean, I think who is it?
Yeah.
Andre Bocelli is probably
Yeah, he's
one of the
awesome.
closest living ones. But all right, well,
Yeah, or you know what I was gonna say? I forgot to say this about Andrew Lloyd Webber.
sure.
I like I think the greatest encapsulation of his talent is Cats. Like, that is insane. That is like a
Mhm,
word for word adaptation of the poem. Like,
mhm.
it is
It's
so
Elliot.
cool to, like, read it, and it's like he, like, picked out the melody, he picked out the rhythm of the poetry, and, yeah, that is just and, I love cats, what can I say?
Yeah. Well, here's the problem with Cats,
Oh yeah,
what a lot of people feel. The movie, Cats was never meant to be made into a movie. It
oh
was
god, that
only
movie is an abomination. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, the total misunderstanding, but also that, like, I think in popular culture, it's almost taken over. But people need to realize that Cats is, in a way, a variety show. If I
Yeah.
could really describe it, with a very loose little story going through it, and you're just learning about these cats. You're supposed to be seeing the tap dancing live. You're supposed to be seeing all the
Yeah, I've
dancing
seen
and
Cats, like, I think I've seen it, like, 3 times live.
yeah.
Like,
Oh, I've seen it
yeah.
more. It's an amazing piece. It's got a lot of really great music. And
Yeah,
gosh,
like
don't, forget Jesus Christ Superstar.
that's
Not
pretty good, but I don't know this song, I don't know how to love him, like, just grates on me. I don't know
oh,
what it is about, like, that I I have no idea, like, it just, like,
you mean you don't
yeah.
like the tune or you don't like the theme or
No, I don't it's not like I don't know it's not like there's nothing about it, but every time I've heard it performed, it's always like the woman singing it is not, like, really, like, on key, I guess.
oh,
I don't
yeah.
know. And
Yeah.
it's just it's not a very fast song, there's not a lot of movement in it, and it just sort of, like it feels very blah to me. Oh
Yeah.
my god, William, you take that back, Imma kick
Yeah.
you.
Well, like I said, it's because of the movie. The movie oh, yeah, we're in, again,
That was an abomination in the eyes of God, like,
yeah.
burn it down.
Yeah, it was so wrong on so many different levels.
Oh my
The If you
god,
wanna see a version of
why?
Cats without seeing it live, it's supposed to be live. It really is something that should only be seen live. But if you
What
have
was the
to
CG like? Ugh, like, it was
mm,
furries, like, ugh,
yeah, it was really weird. Cats only had 2 memorable songs, "Fight Me." Well, yeah, we'll fight you, but not tonight.
we'll fight you. And I
Yeah,
know that you have seen Cats multiple times too, Will, so, like, don't even go there.
yeah. They The recording that they did in '97, I think it was, 19 where they actually recorded, like, the stage version, but they brought
Yeah,
back Elaine Page. That's the best way you'll see Cats, a version of Cats, but it still just doesn't look it's just supposed to be done live, but yeah,
yeah.
so there it is. Well, we are going to be going into our roll 7, which is the pub, game portion, but before we do, is there anything else you would like to say about our topic tonight that you wanna get off your
No,
chest?
other than I think that people, like, classical music has gotten a bad rap. It's not all highfalutin and stuck up, and if you really wanna learn, like, sort of how music evolved, like, read the histories of these things. Like, I haven't read any, like, good books about that lately, but, like, they're out there. I mean, it's so fascinating to read how like, about these composers, how they live, like, what role like music functioned in societies in the past. And if you kind of just like adjust the way you think about it and think about how you listen to this, like you'll have a new appreciation for the music a lot more.
Hmm, yep, I agree. Yes, do so. Let's see. Any other comments about this before we go on? Oh, they're talking about cats from eating a butthole cut. Oh dear. Oh dear. No, 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 no. All right. So actually, let's get out of yeah, roll 7. And as those of you who do know or do not know, what we do is we roll a d20 7 times where there is an open-ended question, and I encourage everyone in the chat to also participate. These are some questions that were put together by me and Steve Kenobi on my mom and tested. So they've done well so far. Who knows what will happen tonight? It is time for the first roll. Boom. Okay, Lady Balefire, tell me
Okay.
something on your bucket list.
Oh my gosh, what's a bucket list that I really want to do? Man, I you know what I really want to do is I want to try to do some kind of like overnight camping hike. I have gotten really into walking and I do that a lot and I really love to hike and I would love to try like when I lived in California, I'd done portions of the Pacific Crest Trail, and like that's a big one, or like the Appalachian Trail, and I would just love to try that. I have fibromyalgia, so it's really like difficult to camp and sleep on the ground, but I'd like to try that like once before I die.
Oh, well, there you go. I would love to go camping as long as I'm in a nice, cozy RV.
Yeah, that's like my parents started out like tent camping and we did that for years, and then they got a tent trailer and they did that. I used to take my French horn with me on vacation so I could practice, and I just play out in the national forest and stuff, and people thought that was really cool. So yeah. So I would do that, but then they got an RV, and I like had to stop like camping with them in a tent trailer because it was too cold for me. So them getting an RV was really awesome because I could go with them a lot, and I really enjoyed that. So
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, lots of hiking trails down here in Texas. That is correct. Soul Assassin. Zeke
oh
says,
yeah.
I don't have one. I have a bucket list, though. Well, yeah.
That's a good one.
Soul Assassin says, have you seen the videos of
I
wild
have
animals
not.
react?
I've seen some of them where like I've seen like people playing to like farm animals or cows, and that's so cute.
Aw, there you go.
Sticks to my joke, man.
Oh no,
My dad
gosh,
joke.
Zeke, really? I'm not even gonna say that out loud.
Yeah, it's usually though, like, have you ever had sex while camping? But I like that version too.
Yeah. Oh, gee. One thing on my bucket list is to see the Northern Lights. I would love to.
Yeah, I want to see that too. But like, so my dad's Canadian. I have a bunch of family in Canada, and
Mhm.
one of my cousins lived in the Northwest Territories, and he said he would see them all the time. Except he's like, you'll be really disappointed. They don't look like the pictures because like people do like time lapse and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that sucks.
Oh. See, yes,
Yeah.
I know. I've he always gets me with it too, because I was thinking, oh, it can't be. Oh, fuck, he did it again. All right.
Yeah. All right.
Let's see. Roll number 2. What fictional place would you most like to go and why?
Okay. Man. You know what? It's got to be the Shire. Okay. I'm a huge gardener. I love gardening, and wow, like I don't know, Lord of the Rings movies, like I read the book for the first time this year, and man, those hobbits, like those were some huge carrots, the cabbages, like man, like
Mhm,
fire maggots, the mushrooms, like I all the soil is good, and if you go there like post like scouring of the Shire, and like Sam has like thrown down that magic Gladriel dirt, like yeah, there's magic gonna be happening there. Like my plants are gonna grow really big. Plus, like, look at the houses. Like they're so pretty. Like the little like holes in the ground, but like they
mhm,
have the little round doors, and every it's like cottage core, and there's chickens running around, and the grass is really nice. I just yeah.
mhm. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Alrighty. So we're gonna go to Hobbiton.
Yeah.
That'd be good too, and great food as well. What's the worst piece of advice you've ever been given?
The worst. Oh my god. Like I I had like a therapist when I was in junior high, and I was dealing with a lot of, like I've had like depression like my entire life, and some like issues with mental health and stuff. And this woman like straight up told me that like if I had a boyfriend, all my problems would go away.
What?
I'm like, what?
That is like psychiatry malpractice. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
If you had a boyfriend, yeah, because that's been known to cure depression. Okay. Oh my gosh. That is horrendous. Soul Assassin says, worst advice I got was to be honest to the MEP doctors by a recruiter. Is that military doctors? I think, yeah. I have oh wait, that's you.
Yeah, I
Oh,
was
you're talking
like,
about
I was
Canada.
wondering where like Canadian Spider-Man was from because I love Canada and I've been there many times and I have lots of family up there and yeah.
Hmm. Worst advice from a therapist, many such cases. Yeah, I mean, I actually have had pretty positive experiences, but yeah, there's always some bad ones. But that's one
That's
of the
just like
dumbest
what
things I've ever heard
I
in
know.
my
Why
life.
would you say that to somebody? Like, I don't know. I had some really bad, like, yeah, bad experiences with that.
Oh yeah, excellent psychiatrist, get fucked. Basically, what the advice was. Yeah, and I think get fucked was what she needed to be told. Like, um,
Yeah,
oh,
like,
oh, military doctors never be honest. Just say you're fine is what I learned. Oh yeah,
yeah.
I'm using that therapist advice. Oh, don't you take we
That's
have a
funny.
psychiatrist on our show, on our game, and 'cause
Oh,
it's technically not D&D, but sometimes it's easier to say D&D. It's a
what are you
modern
playing?
80s well, it's a modern 80s game that Steve kinda made up himself, but
Oh, that's cool.
based using the Call of
Call
Cthulhu
of
rather
Cthulhu one.
rules,
Yeah,
yeah.
that one. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so but it's, like, original, and he has a lot of fan service for us, and, yeah, there's a shrink, that's how we get our sanity points back is and this shrink is crazy. He's like the guy from Seinfeld. Actually, he is, like, he'll put a picture up of him, and he'll just, he'll give us some pretty crazy stuff, so I won't tell Lady Gravemaster, okay. Um she doesn't know where what's she has waiting for her. Alrighty,
Ugh.
so oh, he's done some crazy, but he does great fan service. Like he's had or sorry, Sean Patrick Flannery for oh gosh, because for Mara, because he's so hot, and James Bond has shown up with Timothy Dalton, James Bond, and I love him.
That's funny. Yeah, I made like Damon Targaryen like a character in Pathfinder.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
I
Nothing
know.
wrong
I
with that
was
at
really
all.
bad because I keep trying to play him like the character acts, and I just haven't gotten like we haven't gotten to a situation that's been like a long term like political strategizing kind of thing. And yeah, but he's had like 3 girlfriends already. So
Oh. Oh dear. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, you're right. It is actually him. Okay, and it's before when he was a shrink. And obviously
oh,
he was
that's
a
funny.
bad shrink and became a great lawyer. All
Oh,
right. Oh,
yes, I love Okanagan Valley. It is like one of the prettiest areas of Canada. That's where my dad's family lives. Some of them like have an aunt and uncle, like and 2 cousins. So yeah, and definitely look for Ogo Pogo. If you can't see him in the lake, like he does kind of hang out on the shore at the park, and it's fun to get a picture with him.
okay.
Very fun.
And all right. So rule 3 is what's your favorite TV show and why?
Oh God, what is that? Yeah. You know what? HBO Rome is amazing. Like
Hmm.
I watched that when it came out. It's like the start of the golden age of television. So it had great production value, great writing. Even though it was made in like, I don't know, like 2003 or something, like
Hmm.
the production value was awesome. Like the special effects still look good. It holds up and the story is awesome. The actors are great. It's got Ray Stevenson in it and Sharon Hines and there's like a bunch of other people like that are just really like they're not huge actors, but like they're great. And
Hmm.
I yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I really enjoyed it. Good things came of it and bad things because I think it was one of the first ones that
Yeah.
had a lot of that really
Oh
earthy kind of graphic sex
yeah,
and
it totally had that. Like it was definitely like rated R plus.
yeah. And then people just tried to imitate it and just put the sex in and didn't realize no, yeah, it
Yeah.
has to be with a good story. Yeah. Rome was
Yeah.
okay, and the Steak say I'm basically doing an
Oh,
X-Files
okay.
supernatural
That
kinda
is
game, but I'm
cool.
entwining it with a bit of pop culture characters from the '80s. The movie characters show up in the game in between movies. Oh, yeah, yeah, it's pretty fun.
That is really cool.
Oh, yeah,
And
Steve for
yeah, I yeah, also a bit of a history geek and did reenactment and did Roman reenactment for a really
oh,
long time. So that's probably like I would say the most historically accurate like TV show movie thing
yeah.
in recent memory.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, because that's the other thing is that's the way it really kind of was then. It wasn't just random. Let's just have people be weird and kinky and
Yeah.
awful. Mm,
Yeah.
and Steve says Twin Peaks and X Files for me, Spartacus too. And Tommy is here. Hello, Tommy. Thank you. That's right. CSM only our apologies. Oh, is that something to do with Canada? Uh, a Canadian thing?
Yeah, I
Um,
think so.
yeah. Okay. Well,
Sorry.
yeah.
I know
No,
I
that's
played like I played Dungeons and Dragons with a bunch of Canadians, but I haven't done it for a while. And I've done this since I was a little kid. But if I go to Canada, I start talking Canadian like 2 seconds.
yeah. Oh, 20 like hype. Yay. Oh gosh, just don't reenact Caligula.
Yeah,
No,
I know.
hell no. I've done Civil War reenacting. That
That's
was a
fun.
lot of fun going to Civil War battlefields here in America. So, well, there we are. What is next? We have what? Oh, wait. Oh, that's the same number. So I always say get a lottery ticket when that happens.
Uh,
Well, your luck is good. What's your favorite bullshit excuse when you're late?
I don't know. See, I'm trying so hard not to be late because if you're in marching band, early is on time is late, late is
Mhm,
don't bother, and you just get push-ups. But I think like I've had some usually something to do with my cats.
mhm.
And
That's a good one.
like yeah, and it's usually not even that bullshit because they get into trouble and stuff like that. Like I
Mhm,
had a cat, his name was Beans. He was really cool. He would like sometimes get in the car and it's like, no, Beans, you're not coming with me, or like,
mhm.
yeah.
Oh,
But yeah, I try to like yeah, I try to be on time. I
yeah.
yeah.
Well, good for you. Yeah. Now, when you were talking about the cats, now people are going to be suspicious because, like today, I was like, I'm taking my cat to the vet," and it's like I really did. It was really my cat. Um,
I know. I'm excited because me and Will are gonna get a cat this weekend. And we're like, yeah.
oh well, sweet. Yeah, my little girl, she's 19. She's gonna be
Wow, that
20. Yeah.
she's an old elderly lady.
Yes, she is, and she had to get some blood work done.
Oh,
Um, and I'm like, "You are not allowed to die because I don't know if I'll be able to handle it." I got her in
wow.
2004, little orphan. Um,
Wow, I had a cat like that, man. She's cool.
oh, oh, here, let's do another one. Get a lottery ticket. My gosh, girl, you're rolling. Oh, holy shit! Buy 3 lottery tickets. You're rolling. You need to play a craps game or something here. Okay, here we go. What is the title of the current chapter of your life?
Oh my gosh. Oh, goodness, how would I even describe that? Something amazing. I was thinking about chapter titles because I'm starting to write like a novel, and I'm
Mhm.
like, do I have actually chapter titles? And then I'm like reading the Silmarillion,
Oh,
and everything is just so bleak on that. I have no idea. That's a great question, but it's probably like probably something to the effect of like like it's the light after the darkness. It's like
aw,
the yeah, like if you've ever experienced like the worst things and you just have really bad experiences and it really makes you appreciate like the good all that more.
yeah,
Like that's really where I'm at. Like I'm at a very good place in my life right now. I'm really excited. I met somebody wonderful. I moved out of California
yay,
and we're starting on our own a new journey together, and I'm really happy here. I recently completed the master gardener program out in Iowa State, so I learned lot more about plants, and that's really fun. It's just like a total different lifestyle out here, and yeah,
Mm.
yeah, I
Wow.
think
Well, you're
I
so
think
happy.
things are coming
Steve's
back. Yeah.
is my chapter is Elba. He was onto something big. Yeah.
It's definitely like, it's like the rainbow after the storm, maybe.
Yeah. I would say mine's FML, but that's okay.
Yeah, I got a few of those too. Like, yeah, that was yeah.
Okay, well, that's awfully sweet. I'm glad to hear that for you.
Thank you.
All right. What's the most annoying question you've ever been asked?
Oh my gosh. So, like, as many of you know, and some people don't, I used to be a professional race car driver, and this was what I did after I graduated college. Because, right, what do you do when you have like an English degree? Yeah, right. Okay, so I used to get some really stupid questions, and they were usually like revolving about like being a woman driving, and they were like from journalists and stuff, and they would ask me questions about like, oh, like, oh, so you I won championships and stuff, and people were like, oh, so you won like the women's division. I'm like, no, it's like I race cars. Like my car doesn't know if I'm a dude or a bitch.
Yeah,
Like
I was
it's the
gonna say
fastest
that is a great
person.
equalizer.
Right, like it's great. And then I would get people like just asking me like just like really silly questions about like stuff with that, and it was always like stuff like that, and I would just be like, yeah,
Really?
no, okay.
Yeah. I think because there's so much BS sexism right now, like people call it crying
Yeah,
BS.
it was way before then, because I was racing between like 2004 and about 2009, and but like, it was still there. And it's like I had like legitimate issues with people being sexist, and I had some
Mhm,
things that were definitely like this happened because I was a woman. Like there
mhm,
were not like rules that were applied, but it was like just silly. This I don't know, like they were always related to like feminism kind of things, and I'm like, I don't care. Like I'm not interested in that. Like I'm just trying to
exactly.
be a good example, and I just want to race my car and have fun.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, because sexism is out there just like racism is out there, but because
Yeah,
so many people are crying wolf that it
I know,
diminishes.
like, now it's such a joke. Like, I listen to what people complain about, and I'm like, "That is so stupid," because it's like I had an experience where it was, like, my 3rd race, and this was when I was, like, doing I was doing the national championship, because my coach was like, "Okay, you can do this, like, you just need to get points." Like, it's all about point accumulation, and,
Mhm.
so I was in Tennessee doing a rally, like, in the backwoods, and it was in March, so, like, it was very wet and slippery and scary, and it was only my 3rd race, and I had not finished my 1st race that I did because my car broke down, and yeah, uh, I made it to the end, and it was very
Mhm.
slippery, and it was a very difficult thing to do, and then there was this guy where he was, like he'd been racing for a lot longer, and he had gone off the road, like, completely off the road, had to get towed back on, and like they have a time bar in rally where it's like if x amount of time has elapsed since you started the thing, like you're just disqualified. So this guy had actually like gone off the road, had to wait till like the sweep cars, which come to clear the roads after the race, had to pull him back on the road, and he finished the race, and he wasn't like faster than me or something like that, but he like put in like a protest to have his time like substituted, because he actually like substituted for what it wasn't, like because we'd ran that stage twice or something, because he had gotten back on the road and actually finished. And I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, well, if you going back on the road and actually finishing, I still had a better time than you, but they actually like granted this guy's protest.
Oh,
And I'm like, what? Like, this is insane. I was so angry and I couldn't do anything about it. So he took all the points from me. So I was like,
bastard.
Yeah, so, like, it was stuff like that, or, like, the one time I did have a really bad crush, it was, like and I had a lot of friends and, like, I'd been in the community for a really long time, and there were 2 kind of rival organizations. One of them was starting to start up, and the people from one of the organizations was, like, sending all of these emails about, like, "Oh, well, she crashed, and this is why you shouldn't have, like, beginner drivers, like, driving these fast cars," and stuff like that. And I'm like,
Mhm.
at that point in time, I've been racing for 4 years. I had started on a slow car, and then at the same time, it's like there was this very famous dirt biker named Travis Pastrana who started rally driving, and he was crashing his car literally every other race. And so
Mm.
I was like, he was my friend at the time. He's a really cool guy. I have nothing against him, but it's like, if this is like the thing going and they're trying to say like I should be like disciplined or my speed factor should be knocked because I crashed once.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bullshit. Yeah.
double standards. So yeah, I definitely had like some like genuine sexism, but it's like it's like you go into a sport or a situation where the majority of people are men. It's like they're not going to readily accept you, and it's like you just do it. It's like the same thing with being an audio engineer. It's like at the time I was doing it, 98% of people in that profession were men. So it's like you just gotta accept it,
Yeah.
roll with it.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, and Steve's right. Well, I mean, these are all very good points, I should say. Golden rule, easy to follow. Women are people too. That's where door also swings both ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It needs to be mutual respect. And, sometimes there does come a time where you need to pull up your little girl panties or your big girl panties or your big boy panties. But there are assholes out there. And
Yeah, definitely.
I have experienced some stuff, especially at car dealerships. Oh my gosh. When you're
Yeah,
buying a
I used to
car.
get, like, so much crap from those people. It's like, I come into a place, okay, part dealership, like, this is the part I need. This is the part number. Yeah, this is yeah,
And then it's like, well, and they just talk to you like you're a little girl, and it's just like, oh,
yeah. You're
don't,
just
oh
like,
hell
I don't
no.
know what I'm talking about. Yes, I do,
Yeah,
actually. Thank you very much.
yeah. Well, I won't lie. Sometimes I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm telling them what my dad told me because I don't know cars. But that's
Yeah,
okay. It's still the point is just because I'm a woman
yeah,
saying it, yeah.
yeah. It
Like,
doesn't mean you don't know, like, stuff about it, but yeah.
yeah, no, I understand. And of course, well, and when it's something, and it's like it doesn't matter. I said this, would quit questioning me. And if I fuck up, it's my fault. I didn't
Yeah,
ask you to be
yeah,
my father. Um,
yeah.
my gosh, you are rolling really well,
Ugh,
doubles rather.
give me a, like yeah, give me the good rolls for my game.
Okay. Oh dear. Okay, what's the most immature thing you do?
The image I've gosh, I don't know. I when I see cats, I kind of make noises at them and I have to pet them.
Aw.
I mean, it's not bad. Like I thought I was really bad and then I found like my friend is actually like a lot worse than me, but I still do like go, "Hey," and it's like I have to pet the cat. Like I'll be on a walk and especially like I used to walk with my brother and stuff and I'll be like, "Oh, look at there's a cat. Let's and like see if we can pet it." It's just
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that mature
It's
cats are cute. I mean, they like
they're
the
they're
no, we do
so
baby talk with
nice.
cats, yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that's probably like my worst immature thing.
Yeah. But they're fluffy, they're like human or not human,
What do
rather, they're like
you
living yeah,
do?
they're living, stuffed animals.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah, my
It's
my
even
little
better,
one,
like,
she's
one that's, like, they don't wanna be held or pet, and they kinda, like, push away from you. Like, I had used to have a little cat named Pistol, and she would straight up put her foot on her face and, like, push you away and, like, look away, like the kind of meme thing.
yeah.
Oh, you made a
Yeah.
friend with a cat. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know some cats, like, in the neighborhood. I don't see many cats out here, but I've seen a couple, so
Yeah.
oh, that's so sweet when they
Yeah,
wanna
he
be
named him Clemens. Yeah, that's a bit of a thing. He thinks all cats should be named Clemens. But yeah, yeah,
I name
I heard you.
everything Wilbur.
Uh, he does. So have you been seeing him lately? Because yeah, or maybe he's smart and he's staying in now that it's getting icy
It's
over
cold,
there.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
cold. They need to be in the house.
Yeah, little kitty cats. Well,
Unless
okay,
he's
well,
like a metal, like Norwegian forest cat.
yeah, well, yeah, it could be because they do have to adapt. It's
Those
survival of the
cats are so
fittest.
metal.
Yeah,
They're fluffy. They're huge. I love seeing them in the snow. Like they're cute.
yeah. Well, yeah, mine were both indoors. Like right now, mine she has a little pillow that she likes to sleep on next to my
Aw,
computer, and she's all
that's
curled up.
sweet.
Yeah, she's adorable. Steve
Aw.
hates her, but that's okay. So she's noisy. She's noisy, but she's old. I think she's
Yeah,
probably
they
partly
can be
deaf.
noisy when they're that old.
Yeah. I think they're deaf, and they
Yeah,
don't
that
realize
too.
how loud they're meowing because they only meow for humans. Oh, wait, she woke up.
Yeah, I
Okay.
heard that.
Yeah, uh-oh, 7 feet tall, saber-toothed cat. No, it's not. I've seen Clemens. It's a cute little fur ball, and he has,
Aw,
Stieg, wrapped up in the palm of his hand, so we think
aw,
it's a
that's
he. Yeah. Yeah. It's sweet. Well, I guess Clemens is a guy's name, but it could be a girl. So, well, thank you again so much for being here. I'm so glad it worked out. Where can
yeah, awesome discussion. I was so stoked to talk about this. Like, it's just really something so niche. Like, you rarely even meet anyone that knows what you're talking about. So, I really appreciate you having me on. It's been a blast. And, like, I gotta say, like, the funnest part of this is just been going back and listening to the music again and be like, oh, I like this. Yeah.
Oh, well,
I
yeah,
just,
and it's great. I mean, it's our true love. It when I found out, I said this at the beginning of the stream. When I found out when we were on Zach's stream that you're a classical musician too, I was like, "Oh my god, I found one! I found one!"
yeah.
I
Yeah,
didn't.
thanks for having me on, and, like, thank you guys in chat, you're awesome, and, like, for dropping all the links and stuff, like, I am definitely going to go watch the Freddie Mercury thing because I remember, like, knowing there was, like, a song or 2, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. See, he didn't look. It felt lewd to look at his
It
crotch.
is
Cats
rude!
don't mind. Um. So yes, thank you, Zach. Thank you, everyone. So where can we find you?
I'm on, like, YouTube, I'm at Lady Balefire, I'm also on Twitter too, but, like, to be perfectly honest, like, I get so many notifications from people if you try to, like, if I missed you ever sent me a message, I am sorry, like, I don't know how to, like, just kind of mute, like, certain groups or something, and I wish that was a feature on there, but I'm like, my YouTube channel is Lady Balefire, I have I help out a lot on the White Cloaks channel, and I've done some like graphics for some and like helped them with video editing and stuff too. So I've like we were all covering the Wheel of Time TV show because it's a trash dumpster fire, massive dumpster fire, and I was doing a bunch of stuff with them, and I have some other friends like Steve Prophet of the Dragon and like Nerdporial and stuff. So yeah,
Mm.
we have been very like busy with that, and I was doing my reviews for that. I'll probably start making videos again now that I have like I'm not working DoorDash anymore, so I'll have a lot more free time. So
Oh. Oh, okay. Oh, so you're one of those DoorDash. So, but I bet
I did
you.
do DoorDash. DoorDash in California is a lot more like lucrative than DoorDash in Iowa. Like we don't have all those like gig worker laws, so like the pay here is really low, and I can't even get mad for people not like giving great tips because I mean, if your base charge for the drive is like $2 and they give you like $3 or $4, yeah, they're still
Yeah.
giving you a lot. So, but yeah,
I understand. Yeah. So, and I, I sometimes have trouble with my Door Dashers where even though the number of my house is right in front of it, they still leave it with the neighbor. So, but I bet you're
uh,
not one of those. Yeah.
yeah, I read the instructions and
Yeah.
yeah, but I'm
And
not
that's
doing that anymore. So I'm happy, especially because it's
yay.
cold. So
Yeah. All right. Oh, they're talking about
talking about Wheel of Time.
real
Yeah,
time. Yeah. Well, I've seen that they've done a comic adaptation that so far looks faithful, so I'm gonna stick with that. That's
yeah, it's
probably
pretty
gonna be
good. Like, Robert Jordan worked with at least the ones that are originally released. Like, he worked with
Mhm.
the author, and he was kind of a pain in the ass, which is why they didn't really do more. Like, Chuck Dixon actually did that one, and apparently, I knew some of for I met people through streams that knew Chuck Dixon. I was like, oh, that's so cool. We could talk to him about that. And it's like that's the one thing he won't talk about because the experience is so bad. So
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
well,
So
there
yeah,
we
it's a good adaptation though. Like they're fun. I haven't looked at them myself, but my friends really like them. So
Okay, well, there we go. Yeah, that's
yeah.
because spending a whole lot of money on to waste something for sure. Okay, so everyone, please go ahead and sub, watch all of that jazz, and don't spam her. I said it, not you, so everyone can get mad at me. Don't spam her because yeah, when you got so many notifications, it's very hard to get through to people. So but thank you, everyone. You can find me here in Miss Martin Muses, where I talk about what makes me laugh, makes me cry, makes me happy, makes me sad, or just really, really ticks me off. I have some videos coming through the pike. I think I might be able to get them out. I know I've been talking about it for a while. Just life has been crazy and insane and horrible. Also, I'm going to be continuing with Pub Crawl. I have, who do I have coming up? Lethal Lightning's coming up, European Lore's coming up. And next week,
Nice.
we're going to be doing a special Catholic splating of Advent with Magitech Mags.
But
So,
that's really good because I need to do that. I have no idea what Advent. I was asking Will about it. So.
oh, yeah, yeah, it's totally different. It's more fun because you don't get burnt out on Christmas if you do Advent properly.
Yeah, that's what I heard you saying as I was making a wreath to put on my front door.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you all so much. You're on a Discord too.
Yeah,
Okay, and
yeah.
yeah,
I
and
think it's
also,
easier for me to manage the notifications on Discord. So if ever I don't like, and I think I have my email on my Twitter too. So feel free
yeah,
to email me or like it's on my YouTube channel. I don't like I don't mean to like not answer stuff, but sometimes it just gets really hard, especially when I was doing DoorDash because the Twitter stuff would come in and I just have to like just mute all of that stuff when I was working. But
yeah,
yeah.
understandable.
Uh,
And I didn't mean to sound a little bit harsh. Of course, it's just,
No,
we know
no,
that
not
it's
at all.
hard.
I know what you're saying, and it seems like Advent is really interesting. I just don't know anything about it, but I
Yeah.
feel Christmas burnout like on big time. That's my
Oh
only
yeah.
Christmas
Oh yeah.
decoration so
No.
far.
Yeah. Well, I meant about not bothering you. It's like,
Oh no, 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 no. Go ahead. Like bother me all you
okay,
guys
I
want.
did it on her behalf. There we go. But yeah, and of course not to take it personally because most things aren't personal online. I
No.
mean, like uh, those that know, real life has been happening, and guess what takes priority? And it's not that it means that I'm not don't care. It's just sometimes it happens, and as you said, when sometimes you're working or holidays happen, especially these
Mm.
next few weeks are going to be insane, and
Yeah.
so all that good stuff. So please stay tuned here, and let's see, what am I'm at 890, so 110 until I'm fully monetized. I'm mostly monetized now, but fully
Yay.
monetized then, and so I'm crawling up slowly but surely. So have a great day, everyone. Have a great day, and be certain to listen to some amazing classical music. You will not be disappointed.
Yes.